competition, PETERBOT and Pollo. We're actually not going to talk about them. They're not important at all as a competition, so we're just going to scoop past it. Just kidding. Let's talk about this duo who seems to be running away with it on the day.
Why is he live?
They were uncontested, Vivid. How powerful was that for the duo?
Yeah, and you know, honestly, coming into the weekend, I myself thought they were going to be contested by one other team. That expected team, of course, it being their first FNCS Grand Finals. It was a big question mark as to how that was going to go. But PETERBOT and Pollo, they've actually just been straight up uncontested. And what that has allowed them to do, they've had an average leave time from Gimgate at about 5 minutes, which is very, very early. And because they're leaving so early, they were able to claim 4 forecast towers, a bunker, and Rift Island during the 6 games yesterday.
And we know just how important all of those objectives are in a game like the Grand Finals. And they're not just doing it near their point, their POI. Look at just how far they are reaching out to claim these objectives, literally controlling half of the map.
How in the world do you as a team deal with this, right? Like, you go into like a week or two of planning, you're like, yeah, these teams are kind of near me. And then there's just PETERBOT and Pollo coming all the way over from Gimgate, using the dashes to steal your forecast tower, what your entire split drop is based around. Gosh, the impact that they have had on the lobby is crazy.
And we paired that up, when you think about it, right? Forecast. And when we paired it with, guys, I don't know, the aspect of agility, right? These guys have perfect information going into the end game, right? That's a scary spot to be for everyone else, because if they know where they need to go and you don't, they're going to take advantage of that.
Yeah, and their game plan in game 1 was very, very clear, right? This was thought out. This was their strategy. They wanted to push forecast towers, and they knew they were going to have to get in those box fights. So game number 1, they took the SMG. But in game number 2 and onward, they actually opted to not take SMGs directly off spawn. Instead went for like water bending or the DMR, because I think they realized they needed to get those long range tags to keep up with Storm Surge. And I was like, yeah, if they're taking those weapons, they're not going to keep box fighting. No, Kelly, they kept box fighting.
And I swear, every time we watched them in game after game number 1, when they did have Storm Surge, within seconds they were able to get a snipe and then no longer be under Storm Surge. But I think a lot of duos, including PETERBOT and Pollo, were a little worried after game 1 when Storm Surge activated at zone 2. But obviously that changed a little bit as the game went on. But obviously, with that being a part of the issue, with so many duos having issues with Storm Surge, I love to see what PETERBOT and Pollo are doing to be able to overcome that.
And with that info, can you kind of talk me through maybe some of the strategy we saw from them yesterday that we could see happen again today?
Well, yeah, I'd be no surprise if we saw them push for more forecast towers. Forecast is so good, and this game we're going to take a look at just how good it is. PETERBOT and Pollo, they love to play for height, but you need to poise yourself up early on in the end game to actually be able to play it. What better information to have than where the next zone is going to go? And look at how isolated they can be. No danger at all. There's no other team even close to them, because they're able to make that early rotation. And David, why are they on the south side? Again, they have forecast. They know where the next zone's going.
And you could just see that happening all throughout the end game there. They were holding height from multiple points during several games where it just seemed like they were controlling the lobby. We've seen this kind of a recurring thing where no one even looks to high ground. And although PETERBOT and Pollo did take high ground almost every single game, they were only able to walk away with 2 victory royales. But who needs a victory royale when you're making top 8 every single game?
Absolutely disgusting scoreline. 486 points in first place. A lot of points ahead of everyone else. We'll talk about that more in just a second. First, I want to catch up with our casters, Monster D Face the Best, Taco, and hear their thoughts on the day.
That's right, and they're not the only team that is up there in the race right now. The closest next competitors are, of course, Kanata and Cooper, and we have to celebrate them as well, Taco.
Yeah, there's so much PETERBOT and Pollo propaganda coming out of the analyst desk, but I want to give a friendly reminder. Today, we have that 1.5 times point multiplier, and Kanata and Cooper ended day 1 with 368 points underneath their belt, so they are definitely still well within that striking distance of that first place position on the leaderboards. But in all due respect, the PETERBOT and Pollo, they have definitely earned their flowers and being the talk of the town right now.
Yeah, and it's not just that. It's, of course, the consistency. We've seen this consistency carry through. It's only gotten better from qualifier to semi-set lobbies, and now, of course, the finals. And not to mention, yesterday, there were instances where a first-place team were left as individual solos. However, they did the impossible, the unthinkable, right, and clutched up in those moments. If those opportunities didn't go that way, we'd see a much different standing. So I do think today is ultimately going to come down to game 7 through 12 all the way through to the end. Zeke, for us personally, as if I had to really put a number on it, I mean, you know, it's not over until it's fully over there, if you had to ask me.
I couldn't agree more, MDF. That 1.5 times multiplier, we even saw it a little bit in EU, right? Suddenly you've got duos jumping up these placements because these numbers are huge. Just the Victory Royale is worth 100 points. That just keep that in mind as we watch these games throughout the day. And thank you guys for, of course, calling out Kanata and Cooper. They're looking like the only duo that can keep up with what PETERBOT and Pollo are doing. Now, as we kind of continue to talk, though, we have to remember 3 spots going to the Global Championship. So if we've got, of course, PETERBOT and Pollo going in first place, we got Cooper and Kanata coming in second place, well, then we're looking at a fight for third. And as we bring up the standings, we can kind of see who's in third place right now and who could potentially look to strike at that third place spot. We kick things off with third place. Bryce and Bolts, they're uncontested and seem to be pretty placement heavy after yesterday.
Yeah, they have this incredibly huge uncontested split over in Dumpenhausen, and this split provides them so much loot and so much heavy metal that they essentially go into the end game without any concerns of having to kind of put themselves at risk. And most importantly for me is that they do a good job prioritizing objectives like the bunker and Rift Island. They grab Rift Island at least twice in day 1. And although they don't grab the most amount of eliminations, they are incredibly good at grabbing these long range tags. And because of the distance, they can save their heals and mats for the end game. And although in the end game they do tend to stick to the front, middle, maybe low ground, they once again by doing that are able to save their heals. And Vivid, most importantly, they eliminated PETERBOT.
Ooh, yeah, Bryson Bolts looking good. Currently sitting in third place, right? So kind of have that edge over the other teams that are kind of competing for it. But it wouldn't be no surprise to me if we saw them continuously go for some of those objectives to make sure they place themselves next to teams so that way they can get some damage.
A new accolade in the Fortnite scene. How many FNCS titles, Global Championship titles, eliminated PETERBOT? Got it. Thank you for that, Kelly. Let's talk about fourth place, Reet and Ritual. Also a duo uncontested. And guess what? They not only eliminated PETERBOT, but Pollo as well, taking the Victory Royale from them.
That is right. And Ritual and Reet, you know, we talked about them a lot in Major 1.
I
They were
say,
one of
is
the
this you?
favorites to
Or is this
win.
an actual person?
They're absolutely
This
incredible
is an actual
fraggers,
person. That's
and they
insane.
have their Reckless Railways POI just
okay, I
downloaded
did
to
too.
a T. And once again, another top duo prioritizing forecast towers.
that's
Again, this
insane.
is something that we saw from them in Major 1, and they're carrying that over into Major 2. And historically speaking, Reet is known to be one of the best fraggers in Fortnite, but this Major in particular, it's been Ritual that's been popping off.
Imagine having a duo that can kind of keep up with the W Key King. Awesome to see this duo working so well together. You know, honestly, last Major, also there was like a crazy stat where they were like the team that was actually closing out fights the fastest. So good to see them in contention to actually make it to globals again. And, you know, dominating the low ground in that one game where they got that Victory Royale and taking it to the higher ground. Awesome to see.
The duo 1 point behind them is none other than Baka and Pars. Once again, placement heavy duo. However, they're a little low on the elimination side, so I feel like if they can pick that up, we can look for that cementation of third place.
And they weren't contested, but there is some worry about them being contested. My focus on Baka and Pars, though, is how early they leave their POI, this ship it station split that they have. And barely 2 minutes into their drop, they're already rotating over to restored reels to grab some tags from those duos over there. Once they get the tags and even elimination, they rotate back to their POI, and then they're using this launch pad over and over again in a single game to be able to rotate early on. And when they're low on mats from all the fighting that they engaged in, Pars does some insane deep rotate in Game 3 into Storm to get on a train, and they stay there for 4 to 5 minutes. And I love the utilization of kind of this unique strategy. And although they do have issues with Storm Surge, it definitely looks like they are kind of working on some strats to be able to recover from that.
Gosh, using the jump pads, the train, right? Everything that they can possibly find around the map. But the big thing for Baka and Pars switching up when it comes to Grands semifinals, they were actually the team that was on the higher ground the longest throughout all of the games. And we have not necessarily seen them on higher ground yet, just adapting their end game strategy to go ahead and play just a little bit lower. Still doing well, though.
High ground, you say. Well, why not give an honorable mention here to the duo in 7th place? Actually, over from EU, it's Paco and Mixon, one of the few duos that have looked to actually fight for high ground and hold it.
Yeah, Paco and Mixon are an incredible duo, and obviously there's been this discourse of, oh, a Tier 3, Tier 2 EU team able to compete with the best of NA, but Paco and Mixon are absolutely incredible players. They've made it to grand finals in EU plenty of times, and I can see why they're able to do that in these games right here. Going, again, for this big split drop, and they actually stay split all the way to Zone 2, both of them grabbing their own individual towers to grab Storm Surge. However, they do seem to have some issues with Storm Surge, but a way to overcome that is these dead side rotations to put them in a better position towards the end and late game so that they can grab some easy tags once the rest of the lobby joins in on them.
Yeah, and this team, listen, it was no question about it. They were definitely struggling throughout the qualifiers, throughout semifinals with Storm Surge. Like, there were games where they were just 200 below, and everybody was like, wow, come grands, this is not going to look good. But putting themselves in top 10, they have clearly come up with a strategy to go ahead and actually adapt to the lobby and fix those mistakes. So it's good to see them go ahead and implement those.
Okay, here we got a minute before we get into all of the action. Guys, I wanted to kind of quickly get your thoughts on something. With the 1.5 times multiplier, what can duos do coming into these next 6 games to be proactive, right? What can we do to say, there's spots to Global Championship, I gotta secure it?
Zeke, I've got the perfect answer to that. What can duos do? They can replicate what Andalex and Sato did over on EU. Day 1, they ended day 1 in 46th place. At the end of the competition, at the end of the 12 games, they were 5th. They qualified to global championships over an incredible day 2. I want to see some NA teams do the same.
And it's definitely possible, and we've already seen in day 1 plenty of teams change up their POI, so I expect we can see more of that today as well. But a lot of it, if you come down to it, comes down to just surviving and making it to the end game, being able to hold on to your heels. And I think Storm Surge is the big concern for everyone. When you get into this middle game where everyone's box-to-box fighting, that's when you lose all your mats, that's when you lose all your heals. So prioritizing kind of long-range engagements to get those Storm Surge tags, to be able to save up your heavy metal and to be able to save up your heals is definitely going to help them in the end game.
Guys, thank you so much for your insight. It is time. The competition kicks off right here, right now. Game 7 is upon us. So, casters, over to you.
Thank you, Zeke. That's right. We're ready for Game 7, of course, the second day here of the FNCS. We're picking up right where we left off yesterday, Taco, and that is with non-stop action and most likely a PETERBOT and Pollo show if they can keep up the momentum.
Yeah, everybody, though, has had the same equal opportunity after the conclusion of Day 1 Grands MDF to do some VOD review, get a little bit of that late night study session, maybe a little bit of morning grind as well. But Game 7 on the horizon, and I'm really going to be more excited to see what happens in today's games.
Well, that's right. Nothing beats a grand finals like a Fortnite grand finals, and we're all, of course, excited to see how it's going to go. So let's jump into game number 7. Well, I'm ready. I know Taco's ready, and surely the community has to be ready for what is going to unfold here for the next set of games. Think about what is on the line right now. A global champion slot, the FNCS Pickaxe of Champions, of course, and a big old cash prize check. Who has put in the research? Who did the homework to go ahead and fight for those opportunities? Because honestly, after yesterday's 6 games, there is so much, I think so much adjusting that teams have to make here today if they want a shot.
And the primary reoccurring theme as well for so many of our teams is, do you find a DMR or a waterbending mythic? Because that is basically what is going to bring the entirety of the surge strategy for so many of these other teams that aren't dealing with these early contest situations. Blake and Macwood, keep in mind, these guys were the victors of Game 6 yesterday. They concluded Day 1 relatively strong. The big question is, can they maintain that momentum from yesterday through to today? Because they definitely had quite a few stumbles here at Grand Glacier. Thoric is not an easy duo to overcome in this kind of situation.
Yeah, and I talked with, Blake there a little bit privately on the side, and he commended the fact that, yes, he hasn't actually won an FNCS Grand Finals lobby win in a long time, and I think he then went on to tweet talking about, what was it, since like 2022 or so. So just a celebratory moment all around, and honestly, you really do have to appreciate the fact that Blake and Mac would have been competing for so long. and we'll see how they continue to trend upwards. Just surging in confidence there. But let's get to Mount Olympus, man. What went wrong with Bugha and Agers yesterday? I mean, Taco, break it down for us.
Bugha and Agers had a whole whirlwind of emotions essentially coming out of this POI. I mean, they finished yesterday in 28th position, so they definitely have a lot to make up for if they want to find themselves within that top 3 threshold in today's leaderboard. But it definitely kicks off with the fact that Zeus and Pikes, they really just backed off initially from that early contest at Mount Olympus, and that posed so many problems for Bugha and Agers' late game surge strategies that their mid-game rotations just became so scuffed, because if you don't have any surge, if you want to opt for those dead side rotations that we're familiar with seeing Bugha especially tend to opt for, you can't really do that if you don't have any surge.
That's right, and Pikes and Zeus is definitely a hit or miss team when it comes down to whether or not they want to be aggressive. But first, let's jump in with Cold and Acorn here. It does look like the fencing fields remains to be highly contested. No adjustments being made here, other than the fact I'd say Cold and Acorn haven't quite gotten their hands dirty. Yesterday, they were fighting almost immediately on the drop. We've seen them go up against the likes of Muzz and Paper early, and even others, but before that fight concludes, it does look like Clix and Epic Whale has a lot riding on the lines here. They went from Lavish Lair being uncontested to immediately keying south here for a team nearby, so I think we're looking at some light adjustments to their strategy maybe.
Yeah, Clix and Epic also recognizing the fact that with the team close by at the estate station just southeast of Lavish Lair, that'd probably be one of their easiest ways to try and acquire some early surge. It's going to be Dragon and Poppy Blast. Keep in mind, yesterday we also saw the likes of Victor and B-Dog trying to drop at that estate station, but as far as Clix and Epic are concerned, if they can't get the surge done here, then they're going to have to depend on the weapon bunker fight, and those haven't necessarily been as favorable in Clix and Epic's direction, primarily because of the fact that they've used a lot of their resources. So many of their mats especially were getting burned during those weapon bunker siege moments, and they weren't necessarily closing off the engagements. You got to finish those fights if you commit to them, and that little bit of back and forth just left Clix and Epic in shambles for materials.
Yeah, that is right. We saw a lot of that, but hold up. We have a quick highlight here from Paco and Mixon. Paco and Mixon, man, picking up the momentum where they left off there. That top 10 finish surely coming in, keeping a hot pedal to the metal here. Very well played for them. They're going to pick up their first elimination, and we already know that whatever they've done from semifinals to grand finals, it is definitely paying off right now, as they've really put a fix, if you will, on the leak that was their Storm Surge strategy. I would say that was the one issue in their overall game plan, and all we've seen from grand finals is nothing but improvements for this team, Paco and Mixon here. So all around, I mean, that's the type of performance we expect of our grand finalists, especially if you want to start fighting your way up to top 3. If there's a day where you want to play well, we've seen that it has to be today when there's a point multiplier on the line.
Over in EU early today, we saw the impact that the point multiplier can have for some teams, but right now the focus being Miro and Dukes. Miro side tag from the east, never even had a chance to see it coming. Dios trying to close in onto Miro's current position, but Dukes is going to immediately reconvene with Miro, making sure that this engagement does not go fully south. Decay and Sigma maybe sniffing out an opportunity there, but they don't want to get caught in the middle either, recognizing the fact that there's a third party nearby. PETERBOT and Pollo, on the other hand, these guys love engagements anytime they can make them happen. Saucy on the run currently, but PETERBOT, he's got the same amount of dashes at his disposal, but he's also got that mythic gatekeeper. The shield's already broken. Saucy still doing his best to try and escape. He's made it towards his duo, Frostmon, but boxed up in the middle of the river of sticks. This is not a safe position, but it's also causing PETERBOT to question just how badly do I really need these eliminations. Sure enough, another team spotted out on the hill. PETERBOT not wanting to get caught out in the open, so he'll think better of that recent engagement and just fall back for the time being.
Yeah, Pollo still hasn't put any shield on either, so I'm not sure what the holdup here is. But PETERBOT very much exposed to multiple teams now, open up to different lines of fire here. Pressure rising right now. Zbaka's on the move now, and this is what I like most about PETERBOT, how active he's willing to be to contest different duos here in the vicinity. The DMR, the perfect weapon to find those tags. Big damage, big swings. Where's Pollo? What is Pollo doing? I don't hear his rifle going off. He's like, it's moving around down there.
Probably just actually taking the opportunity to get some shield recovery going, because Baka and Pars, I think they were the ones that were kind of threatening Pollo's shields more than anything, his HP bar in general, approaching from behind PETERBOT and Pollo's position. But Pars and Baka, they also elected to back off, given that they spotted out Yasir and Krizix rotating all the way from fencing fields towards this area in between Pleasant Piazza, Grim Gate. And it's also interesting to see Yasir and Krizix at this position, because when you think about yesterday, they were frequently fighting that early 50-50 up against Acorn and Cold. So the fact that they seem to have maybe forfeited the right to that vault over at fencing fields, because that's the primary reason why they tend to take that engagement with Acorn and Cold in the first place. And Yasir also, after the conclusion of day one, definitely feeling himself a bit. He was kind of popping off on socials, man. He got the response that he wanted out of Cole, a little bit of provoking, as I like to call it, but I think it's all good and fun whenever it comes to a Grands competition.
It's all part of the game. The mental side, what you do, you know, in-game, off-air, right? Everything does matter. I mean, shoot, there were even small rumors that Blake was going to go challenge PETERBOT. He was like, I didn't say that. Like, what are you talking about? So, you never really know who's up to what. We're jumping in right now. A little bit of some in the storm action going on here. Sphinx has to hit those. This is not a comfortable position to be in if you're only 42 above. There goes the update. He's going to start slipping down now. When you're inside the top 6, I mean, pressure is, you know, surely on to continue to make ends meet.
I like how he got the most difficult shot there. The few freebies beforehand, before he alerted that other team in their surge base exactly what he was up to. But again, when teams go for those return peaks, that thermal scope on the DMR definitely pays.
Down.
Oh, that's big for PETERBOT though. Managing to turn it around just a bit, gets the elimination onto Xavi. Pollo not fully eliminated just yet. PETERBOT throwing his body back, trying to see if he can do some kind of recovery, some form of a revive here. Gets Pollo onto the stairs here inside one of the buildings at Grim Gate. Z-Link hot on his heels, but doesn't seem to have spotted out exactly where PETERBOT is just yet.
Very smart for him to distance himself. However, unfortunate, this team is just tracking him down right now. And this could be the setback that everyone on the standings needs. And Neko is just getting ever so close. Now remember, most of these players can pinpoint exactly where the pickup is happening. And Neko seeming to be on the hunt here, but too late. They gave him a chance, and Pollo gets picked up here. And they will be able to bounce back, but look at how much it's going to cost them. All of their chug splashes, minis cut down, and honestly just left with Flowberry Fizz. And you can see even Pollo taking the big pot there as well. So this is going to be very interesting to see if it's even possible for them to climb back now, as they have no material and the zone's already essentially telling them, you got to go.
Yeah, the damage has definitely been done already, though, to Neko. PETERBOT fully eliminating Xavi has kind of forced Neko to essentially have to play a stealth position now. He can't really afford to make himself known. Maybe he had an opportunity to pick up Xavi's reboot card, but with Skittles and Trashy now encroaching this Grim Gate position, it's going to be real tough for PETERBOT and Pollo with hardly any builds to make it out from that area. Disaster could potentially strike here as well for Scissor and Chimp if they can't connect any shots onto Thoric or School. Thoric and School maybe even recognizing the fact, hey, these guys playing kind of desperate trying to siege our walls. They're likely low on Surge, and with no shield, shield crack. Gonna break through now here for Scissor and Chimp. Whether or not School and Thoric heard it is a different story entirely, but still need one more shot or else they are done for. Scissor gonna be the first to fall. No chance for Chimp to get a recovery tour here.
Yeah, School and Thor pick up that soundbite as well. And they take full advantage there, finding their first elimination. The surge warning's going to turn off there, and that's about as early as you can receive it with 90 players still alive in the game. I feel like very rarely do we get that one right there. So this is just showing you how much is on the line here for game number 7 now. So we're kicking things off, and it couldn't be more interesting now as we see Vortek and Chris trying to decide if whether or not the team on the other side of the wall is a bit worse for wears as well. They surely have the loadout to take a big fight here, so.
But do they really need to risk the fight is the real question. And with the way that Crisp and Vorteca are already choosing to depart from that possible box fight engagement, leads me to believe that they might already have the surge that they need to look for those more comfortable rotations, better positioning for the mid heading into that late game. Rift Island now going to present itself. Handful of teams on this northern side of the map, just outside of Classic Courts. And wouldn't be surprised to see eyes on Chubbs and Aviv clearly taking note of this Rift Island spawn.
Or
Very likely that they're going to be some of the first duos to head to the top of it, but they're going to have to deal with some other teams looking to challenge them as well. Acorn and Cold, Larson, and Oliver OG, to name a couple.
Take a look at Visual and Braids right now. Full box fight here against Vert and company, but shots come in from a third party in the distance there. Not someone rotating far north on the dead side. Visuals and Braids have a big decision to make here. Do you stick this one out or back off? But just the solo here, I mean, I would have to assume they'd want to be quick here and end this battle.
This has been a tough finals, though, for Vert and Yumi, especially after day one. It is tough to keep the mental fortitude going strong, but Visuals Braids gonna cut a slight break here to Vert. If he keeps applying some damage, though, onto their shields, Vert could find himself in a 2 versus 1. It all depends on how badly Visuals and Braids really want to try and tax him for the way that he's aggressed into their shields. But PETERBOT, Grimgate, we knew the situation was looking a little bit tough here, but he's back to finish the job, pick up right where he left off. Frostmon will be the first to get knocked and Pool eliminated.
They need those points. They need, or sorry, not the points. They need the loadout. They need the material. It's the comeback for them that they absolutely have to make up that early game fight, setting back Koyo. Walkers and Thatch, though, looking pretty comfortable here on this Fugan Ages base. Shots starting to come in. Pressure's on for Walkers. It's from Threats and Sphinx here for Reckless Whaleways. Oh, they're targeting both teams. You gotta be careful, you know. Every now and again you do this and both sides start to fight back, but instead Walkers goes up for high ground. What a decision. I was trying to set up the fact that they might just fire and target the duo in the distance, but no, they try to jump Buka and Azers up top.
Hey, these shots are for everybody that they're able to spot out. And for good reason, because the longer that some of these fights take, the more likely you are to have another team interfere with your possible surge strategy or just looking for an elimination refresh in general. Threats and Sphinx, you can just tell that they want to be more aggressive up against the likes of Walkers and Thatch, but their experience, they also know better. You can't just recklessly key into somebody else's box when there are already so many eyes on your current engagement.
That update from Kanata and Cooper right now, jumping in on TK, and the damage comes in. It's a big, big tag onto Kanata. Push down to just 30 HP here, and the pressure comes in, and Bacon takes the wall, bodies TK, and it's up to Cooper now to try to clutch this one out. He does get the trade here, and he should be able to save his teammate, but has to, of course, make the edit. There it is. Bacon looking for a new angle from underneath. Cooper just holding things down right now defensively, but with the storm on the way with no white HP, I mean, at this point, Cooper might as well make the double edit here. And there it is. The zone does the rest. He must have had a good idea that that was coming.
I think it's just a bit obvious with how aggressive Bacon was being, but yeah, the damage. They also have a team behind. Kanata not actually able to escape after all that effort. Cooper, sadly, has to leave his teammate Kanata behind. Zero at the end of it was able to just get the one tag he needed into Kanata's HP bar. Just didn't have a whole lot to work with. Cooper, the moment that he tries to utilize the Wings of Icarus, though, for a rotation, spotted immediately. It's Paper, it's Muzz. They know just how incredibly low he is. They know that they forced him to the ground. And Cooper is just trying to do what he can to escape, but I don't even know if he's going to be able to make it into zone. This is looking like a beat situation right now, MDF.
He's on the move right now. The zone just started doing a little more damage. He makes it in with 1 HP, but the shots are already coming in. A single tag is likely all it's going to take here with 21 HP. And a team keys in, and even though he lands a monstrous shot onto the WTJ duo, it is not going to be enough. Kanata and Cooper go down. NA's only hope here in Game 7 to close the gap is now fully eliminated. And they're gonna be thinking long and hard about that one because they were extremely consistent, right? We were celebrating their consistency throughout the week, so what a setback.
It's also wild to think how consistent they actually were throughout the course of yesterday, because a lot of their mid games, in all honesty, they did not have ideal material counts, not even ideal loadouts most of the time, but they were just so insane with their box fights, with the way that they would just out-edit whoever they were engaging with, that they just made it work for the refresh. But it's day 2. That same strategy might not work as well. Depends on how the rest of the lobby continues to adapt. Baka does what he can, but to no avail. Baka and Par is just too far gone inside of the storm. Just too late on the rotate. There's no mobility, the low mobility, I should say. Competitive meta just posing so many problems for so many different teams.
Would be too early to start to say that it's not looking good for our top 5, but 2 teams in the top 5 have already dropped, giving more and more runway for teams like Blake and Macwood, Paco and Mixon to go ahead and get up into the conversation for a top 5/top 3 podium finish. But Paco and Mixon have a lot to worry about right now. Storm is doing so much damage. They're fighting on their way. Mixon's likely going to fall here. He does, but not before Paco Mixon with 1 HP, and he actually has to abandon his teammate because he doesn't have any mats.
At the same time, we knew Bryson Bolts, Booga, Agers directly behind Paco and Mixon, so it's really only a matter of time before they got fully eliminated like they just did. Reet and Ritual doing a decent job so far, though. Practically dead center of the current zone. They seem to have a pretty good inkling
Grand Finals
where they want to go next, but they know top of the mountain territory has definitely been claimed. Dukes and Miro could cause some real issues here on the fluidity of their next rotate, but Reet and Ritual, they seem content. They got a little bit of damage applied. And they're going to take a moment to pause. They want to look back, try and suppress some of the other teams that are trying to scale this mountain face.
Like the thought process here on the move. Flowberry Fizz gonna make this a pretty simple rotate. Okay, I'm actually more.
Is Peter still
why
alive?
they're gonna settle for this mid-ground position.
So that's so dumb.
Not looking to
They killed the only
it seems
person
like
that
they're just gonna leave it up to the zone.
If
But
they died,
see what happens when you play this close. Other teams just have an easy opportunity on you. Now all of a sudden they have Poppy Blast and Dragon here to the left. Other teams above them, so dangerous spot. Meanwhile, on the other side, Agers and Booga picking up for lost time. We saw them find that Mixon elimination, and they didn't stop there. They followed up from Storm straight through the box of Bryson Bolt here, catching the knock there. And on high ground, Blake and Macwood. It's like, you know, finding a new fresh breath of air up top. Tyler and Curve, man, top 5 after 3 games, and then the back half questionable all around. This is the best performance we've seen since that game 3.
They're definitely trying to make up for some lost ground after the results of the day 1 leaderboards, and Curve and Tyler, I think it's neat to see. It's just more about whether or not they can maintain that same sort of aggressive intent, or if anything, just playing for placements, because it seems like that's primarily their strategy, is to try and go for the placements, but they did definitely suffer some surge difficulties throughout the secondary half of day 1. Game 7, though, definitely not the case so far. Yamzu and Rise, another one of our teams where all throughout the course of yesterday, we saw them more often than not having to perform as a solo, one way or the other. Bugha and Agers just lighting up their current box. Could be part of the reason why we saw that pause from Reet and Ritual, though, because they didn't want to fully commit over the top of the mountain just in case it pulls back more towards the bottom side. It's a tough break, though, for a lot of these teams.
Yeah, but not if
Before you
you're
get back, we go.
Yeah, ultimate
Just
height.
shut
They
down.
just land on top of all these old builds, and they're setting themselves up for what could be a day one into day two back to back, if we could call it that. I definitely would. But first, we of course have to get there. Reet and Ritual sizing up the high ground here, trying to feel out the competition. They're halfway through the mats, though. That'd be likely unfavorable for them. Meanwhile, the Y shot tells us everything we need to know. Blake and Macwood are way up above, and the zone's gonna bounce back in their favor, so the commitment to stay up top is definitely a good one. Look at how much material they have. Oh my gosh. You know they're happy that they were early contested, basically, for that surge to even give them this type of opportunity. Meanwhile, PETERBOT and Polio had bounced back into the tournament. They're really flexing and putting on the numbers right here. They have 3 eliminations this game already. They're inside the top 20, and this is where they begin to break away with the lead right now. Remember, there's a multiplier being attached to your performances, so when you're in first place already, and your your nearest competition is out, I mean, this is how you just walk away with the championship belt, right? Like, this is how you do it.
For sure, and especially seeing Anchored and Cold have those 5 eliminations combined. It's a good amount of points. When you factor in that 1.5 times point multiplier, 6 per elimination. So they're also another team that's fully understanding their current position. Agers, great pickup onto Dragon. Could not have come at a better time, but just too little, too late for Bugha. Agers gonna have to try and close this one out on his own. Zone damage just too much to deal with. He knows that he can't really afford to take that many more ticks of the storm, and he's gonna try to find a way out, but
He
as soon as
might
he goes up
actually.
to the sky with those wings of Icarus, he's bound to draw some attention. Blake and Macwood chop momentarily. Blake, though, immediately reconnects, pulls right back up, knows that he still has control of the high ground, but he scouted them out. PETERBOT, Polio, they are on the hunt. They've got that aspect of agility. You could tell that they definitely want to find their perfect opportunity to strike, but first it's all down to Reet and Ritual to just survive.
Yeah, Reet and Ritual doing a great job of tarping there, but unfortunately
Oh,
one wall is all it took. Meanwhile, for high ground, the fight goes on, and PETERBOT, just the timing onto Macwood jumping down, who was just trying to, do his job and get this base solidified. All of a sudden now, it's PETERBOT and Polio on
Holy
high
fuck.
ground. And Blake is left picking up the pieces there somewhere in the mix, and honestly, he might have even been finished there.
He's
It does
just
seem
fucking
like
nasty,
this is
dude.
going to be a huge GG for the NA market, but Agers still cooking down the low ground. This is a big game for Bugha and Agers to at least put them on the standings here where we expect them to be. Meanwhile, Cold and Acorn split up from one another. 8 eliminations, and Cold sacrificed so much HP to the Storm there. This is a rough spot to be in nonetheless. Yeah, look, he knows. He's like, hey, man, but we don't have anything. Take what little bit of material I have.
That's a tough break, though, for Miro and Dukes. Cold and
And
Acorn, 10 eliminations now, 60
Oh my.
points just off eliminations alone.
Holy shit.
Ridiculous stuff coming out of those two, but we're back to the PETERBOT Polio show is what it's looking like. They've decided to descend Visuals and Braids, doing what they can to try and buy themselves a little bit more time, but PETERBOT Polio, their positioning was just too prime, dropping from high and scooping up the win here in Game 7.
And a game that they shouldn't have even had, such a comeback story for them right there.
If they do this one more time,
Polio
then
was
just win.
down so early in the round, they
Please
didn't
don't.
have much material or heals, and somehow they clawed their way out of that unfavorable position to go ahead and win Game 7, the first here to kick off our secondary day, and the highlight has to be that shot onto Macwood. Macwood just didn't see it coming, and from there on out, the rest is history. They just had everything they needed. Even with no material, Flowberry Fizz to jump down and finish the deed is exactly what you expect of it. Pollo was healthy, PETERBOT was healthy there in the end, and really there was nothing that anyone can say. PETERBOT and Pollo now effectively jump extremely far ahead with a 1.5x multiplier, especially with Kanata and Cooper getting taken out early there, Taco.
Yeah, PETERBOT and Pollo definitely looking really strong here, but I want to hear what Zeke and the analysts have to say.
Wonder what everyone's saying on Twitch.
Oh no, starting off day 2 as PETERBOT and Pollo would want to. That is a victory royale, and I think the scariest part of this just game number 1 on the day is the fact that basically your top 5, they went down, right? So PETERBOT, Pollo, they were free to just go, right? They were like, hey, we've got this multiplier, let's just send it on the victory royale. Remember when I said earlier victory royale is worth 100 points by itself? This is looking a little bit like a victory lap, Pivot. It's looking like a little bit of a victory lap to me.
I mean, listen, this was a tough zone for the rest of the lobby, right? That aspect of agility coming in clutch. We kind of saw a similar zone actually yesterday, pulling over top of the mountains, just playing into
People
PETERBOT
in the comments
Pollo's
saying he has
hand,
no
that
light.
added mobility that they get
No
with
light.
that
Wait, what?
medallion. But I mean, yeah, Kelly, this is just classic PETERBOT and Pollo. Steal high ground around 10
This is like to me.
take
Yeah.
it with
70
ease,
grand
and run away with it.
Yeah, well, watching Blake and Macwood there just struggling to fight for high ground. At that point, you have to just give it up to PETERBOT and Pollo. You know,
You
with
can't
that
see
dash
someone with
point,
no
they're going
life
to
and
be
you're
able to
watching them win.
outbuild you, outrun you, and that's exactly what they did right here. Oh, is that
What?
628 points right there? That's fun. That's nice.
That's fun. That's cool. Yeah, that's cool. That's fun. Remember when they started with 486 points on the day? That's crazy. That's crazy. We have 5 more games, and these guys are just so crazily far ahead of everyone else, and all they have to do is just keep this up. They just have to be consistent, right? They don't, as long as they're making it off spawn, they're making it into the end game, even in just like a top 10, right?
Sorry.
Vivid math, quickly go. What's the difference?
Oh gosh, a lot. It's like
240.
What? Yeah, 248 right there. Kanata and Cooper, honestly, listen, that was
Who
actually a
sold them?
big game for them to kind of go
Who said who
down
sold?
in, because, you know, first and foremost, we see the gap between first and second just absolutely exploded right there. But now all the rest of the lobby, right, looking towards like top 7, getting a little bit closer to Kanata and Cooper. So we'll have to keep a close eye on whether or not Kanata and Cooper can kind of stick around in that top 3.
So
I
Glitch is
definitely
doing
feel
dog
like
shit.
this is no longer the FNCS. PETERBOT and Pollo are just doing their own thing. I think they're trying to break every record that we've seen, and they might just do it. Can they get the Queasy Vino 6 victory royales? It's looking like it's a possibility, but of course, so many of the duos here that we're seeing in our second page definitely have a chance to get into that third and even potentially second spot. And the duo that I'm looking at right now is Acorn and Cole, jumping up 15 placements there, and they did it with such ease. Just watching them play, it looks like they're not even in a grand finals lobby. They just play it so easy.
Acorn and Cole, Acorn. Hey, don't do this, guys. Don't do one of these like, hey, we're gonna have a bad day 1 and then day 2 we're just gonna go absolutely crazy. Because I'll be honest with you, that'd make me a little upset that you guys can, you know, show up during this season on day number 2, but with just a little bit of a better day number 1, we could have saw some crazy stuff happen towards the end of the day in terms of the leaderboard. But hey, listen, we can still kind of see that happen. Zeke, I wouldn't be surprised if Acorn and Cold make a run for it right now.
I mean, look, they got the 132 points out of that single game, right? It's not quite PETERBOT and Pollo's 142, but these guys, if they were to jump up in that top 3, that is actually going to make things kind of interesting, remember? Because they already have their spot to global championship. So let's say they were top 3, that means we would go down a spot, right? To then top 4. So depending on where these guys look to end up, this could actually shake up this leaderboard pretty substantially, Vivid.
Oh yeah, definitely. And a team that's kind of looking to not necessarily shake up the leaderboard, just go ahead and squeeze into that top 3. It's going to be Re and Ritual. And listen, there's actually a pattern that I was kind of noticing in terms of teams that were actually able to make it to the end game. And it was our experienced duos, Kelly, because oh my gosh, Storm Surge in game number 7 was absurd.
What was it? There was 90 players left at Zone 3. When we were talking at the start of the show, being like, oh, there was, Storm Surge at Zone 2. We never see that, and we probably won't for the rest of the Grand Finals. Cancel that, because all of these players are just not engaging in these early game fights. They don't want to go down early. They know that, yes, pop-up games are great, but it's all about placement. So to see Ritual and Reet jump into that third place spot as an NA West girl makes me feel pretty good.
And this game has really set the tempo and the tone of the competition, right? Like, all right, we could just stop talking about PETERBOT and Pollo. They'd have to basically fall like every game now to even make it somewhat close, but they've just created such a divide between themselves and everybody else. For everyone else competing, right, for that second and third place for the spots and globals, I want to double back. The fact that Kanata and Cooper, they did fall, as Vivid mentioned, and what a tough situation for the duo, right? To have Cooper by himself trying to kind of piece something together. At that one point, they didn't have any white heals, right? So they're trying to just desperately making it back into the zone. Kanata gets the revive, and he goes down. And, like, they're just trying to piece this together, Kelly, in a way that's like, hey, how do we just put points on the board, right? We got to keep this lead somehow.
I mean, they do what they did yesterday. They had such a good performance yesterday. They were so smart. And honestly, it was just a bad situation for them. I almost felt like Cooper probably shouldn't have saved them, knowing not either of them had those white heals and they were stuck in Storm. It might have saved him a little bit of frustration as he did go into the solo clutch portion of that game. But this is just one game for them. Kanata and Cooper have some of the best mentality that I've seen in the NA region, and they're definitely going to be able to make a comeback.
Speaking about comebacks, listen, braids and visuals. Some PC problems yesterday, only made it into 2 games, but starting the day off good. Second place with only 1 elimination. A comeback that I think we need to keep our eye on. Currently in 32nd place, up from 50th. They were in last because of those issues. So let's keep a close eye on them.
Yeah,
hey man, 1.5. 1.5.
Yeah.
It's gonna make all of these next 5 games you have remaining could go any which way, right? You need one good game, handful of eliminations, chain together, even a victory royale. It could change everything. Now, with that being said, game number 8 is ready to go. So let's jump back on that bus. Casters, take it away, please.
Yeah, I'm definitely getting the European FNCS vibes right now. The runaway train is off to, its destination, if you will. But ultimately, we still are here for entertainment, and there's nothing like a good team dominating, the high ground, man, in great fashion there, Taco.
Yeah, but one thing I also recall from the second day of EU FNCS is that surprise con that Swizzy and Vanyek also had to deal with for day 2. And that's a real possibility, I think. Even here in NA, PETERBOT, Pollo, they could potentially be threatened. And we'll just have to find out what happens here, because game number 8 is underway.
Well, if you're not playing for first, you're effectively playing for last in this type of setting right here, because Global Championships is on the line. That is
Ricky Bobby.
Also very, very important as we start really looking at the standings and how things are going to start shaping out. It is very clear that regardless of whether or not PETERBOT and Pollo put their feet up and just decide, you know what, log out for the evening, they're top 3. Like, undoubtedly have so much points here. But of course, we're not going to see that happen. Here's Boogan Agers, man. What a good game for Boogan Agers, right? They jump back into things, and all of a sudden put themselves in the running, right, for at least a good ending to their event day.
They have a very real shot, though, potentially hopping into top 3. I mean, we saw them jump 13 placements just off their performance in Game 7, so can't really count anyone out in terms of the teams that are just outside of, I think, second place and under is the more realistic position that we're kind of anticipating teams to try and threaten. But School and Thoric inside the vault, running back out from Grand Glacier. Seems they've got Blake completely on the ropes here currently, and Blake, no chance of survival. He's just gonna get run down entirely. School and Thoric gotta be feeling very good about that one. But
especially after they were dropped so quickly in the last game, so all of a sudden Blake and Macwood, who had a lot of momentum coming into this, is starting to slow down here.
a lot of PETERBOT and Pollo's success, though, in those end games is just so heavily credited towards that aspect of agility. The way that they were able to siege the high ground. More on that later, though, as Rapid
You better get this kill.
on the run for his life.
Oh shit.
This is a little bit of a 180 in comparison to what we saw in Game 7 here, but Rapid from the pan straight into the fire. It's Vert who's just looking to take full advantage. Really just comes down to which duo is actually going to get credit for the elimination. M-Pen and Pump will take those 6 points for themselves. But just tough luck for Rapid in that kind of situation.
Yeah, there's no escaping that. That just is what it is at this point. We'll be seeing this game off to a really hot start. Only 90 players left. Take a look at what's happening on the other side. Meanwhile, here's a first for the broadcast. A little bomb dive from the high ground there for Sigma and Decay, finding themselves a well-earned elimination there. Snooty steps, triple con. What is happening here?
Sometimes I feel like players just do things that they feel like will make the broadcast highlight reel. That's what that play looked like for Sigma. But yeah, the triple con situation at Snooty is definitely a pretty peculiar one because this is not a massive POI. There is not a ton of loot and resources to really split at this location. And depending on how things play out, if this is a really drawn out fight, you can definitely expect to see most of the goods just get expended by the teams currently at this area. But just as quickly as we zoomed in to check in on the fight, they all seem like they just want to leave it be and go their own ways.
Yeah, it's a good time to rotate out right now. See some Pikes on the move here. Zeus and Pikes switching up their drop. Seems like they have been indecisive a bit over the weekend. Bouncing back and forth.
Thank you. You're the best.
They've still been hovering the general territory, though, of Mount Olympus. It's just, as opposed to going more towards the northern side of Mount Olympus, they've now opted to go a little bit further south, which is more like in between Mount Olympus and Brawler's Battleground. There's really not much for them to grab with the way that they switch things up, but the priority just seemingly being that they don't want to become the immediate targets for Uga and Agers. It seems they'd rather take their chances in the mid-game for their surge. Pars and Baka, though,
there's just nothing you can do.
Unless he dies off spawn for like the next one elimination, make that 2 onto Jutrez. Keep in mind, it's another one of those teams that we saw as a potential threat to PETERBOT and Pollo in day 1, but they've actually opted to just leave Grimgate entirely by the looks of it. Chance and Aaron, though, they want a piece of Baka and Pars, whether or not
because
they
they
find
have
it,
what Swizzy had
later on.
When they won earlier.
Yeah, that's a team that's definitely been impressing me. I'd say one of the bigger surprises, Baka and Pars. I mean, I've seen what they're very much capable of in person. It takes me back to those land pits where I've watched them challenge different teams, and they are the real deal. So no surprise to see them up in the standings here now. Emerging of the regions. Reciprocal and G-Monster on the move right now. Here at the Underworld, utilizing this to its best capabilities for the quick rotates here. Very early in the game, though. This thing starts to slow down now. 88 players standing here. Still very much faster than the previous game. Game 7. Miro and Dukes in a bit of a skirmish here. Up against Tankasito. And glory to God.
Bit of a slow start, though, for Dukes and Miro. A little bit of Flowberry Fizz now from Dukes. Have to expect that he's going to look to try and jump up, challenge Takasito, but it seems as if Dukes and Miro are maybe a little bit concerned about getting lit up from teams south of their current location. They don't want to find themselves too exposed in that fight. They know that that time to elimination's got to be quick, scoop up that surge damage, and then just look to prioritize in making another endgame.
Zone's pushing all the teams out of Mount Olympus now. Boogie and Agers running on a limited clock here. They just got into a bit of a brawl against Crisp and Vortex there.
It's good that they got
They're going to
surge.
heal up. See Bug on high alert, looking back, but not too concerned now. Look, they didn't even get to finish Luna's drop at all. Is still gear everywhere. Unfortunate.
Mount Olympus was definitely a pretty hot spot in EU. Saw Queasy and Thomas dealing with the triple con. Doesn't seem to be the case for Bugha and Agers, but with the way that Crisp and Vorteca were closing in on their position, they just wanted to grab their loot and get out. And the next objective, I think, for a lot of these teams, we're going to see some of them trying to maybe take some engagements for the forecast towers. And even though we've got Aaron and Chance on screen, thinking about forecast just reminds me of Baka and Pars, and I think part of the reason why Baka and Pars haven't necessarily had that strong debut just yet is because the forecast tower that they like to opt for has potentially been getting threatened decently by PETERBOT and Pollo, because Vivid mentioned it on the desk. We saw PETERBOT and Pollo controlling a good amount of those early game objectives, and especially the forecast tower. They fully understand just how much of a benefit it is towards their end game strategy.
Yeah, Baka and Pars are just one aspect of Medallion away from being like dominating, I think, on this season. But you know, you make your bet, you got to lay in it. No one wants to contest for the best item, arguably, on the map there. Then these are the results.
Skittles and Trashy, seemingly one of the only teams willing to early fight against PETERBOT and Pollo. Good shot coming out of Paco with the Hunter's DMR. 4-time scope. A little bit of a sniper glint in response, though, from Threats and Sphinx. Sphinx likely also rocking a DMR. Sure enough, he's got a 4 times as well. But a blue Hunter's DMR in comparison to the green. Still, Sphinx won't get his revenge just yet. Instead, he knows, I've got to get into the safety of zone. Even though it's only a 1 tick currently from the storm, you don't want to find yourself eating too much damage when you don't have any white heals immediately available. Unless Threats is carrying some splashes, bandages, or medkit, have to expect that Sphinx and Threats, they just need to go. They've got to get a move on. They don't want to get caught up in any sort of congestion on the edge of the zone that they're trying to approach.
Yeah, Muzz and Paper hot on the heels right now. Damage coming in. Sphinx burning through that crucial material right there. It's going to be hard for them to bounce back in this game right now. Let's see, just 30 seconds before they're going to have to make another long journey north, so.
And the worst part is,
What?
cutting, I was just going to say, cutting through fencing fields, that POI has been gutted when you think about the 4 teams dropping there.
Yeah, 4 teams, there is nothing they're going to find there, that's for sure. Take a look at the high ground surge base going down right now at the Grim Gate. This is a little different too. PETERBOT and Pollo in a surge base center of Grim Gate as opposed to one of the mountains off on the edges.
Just tower v tower, man. These fights for not necessarily height control just yet. Obviously, this is just teams playing for their respective surge. It's funny that it's Cooper and Kanata on the other side, though. Our first and second place teams just administering shots to the other, but breaking down the height situation in NA in general, it's crazy to think that throughout the course of this weekend, only 5 different teams have even been able to hold height for more than a minute, Monster. And just for a quick comparison, EU had 17 different teams. So only 5 of them actually managing to like hold on to that height position. It's just insanity.
Yeah, it really shows you the play style difference of how the teams that I feel like have opted to do just that are likely finding much more success, right?
You would think so, but we saw how well it paid off for PETERBOT and Pollo in Game 7. Problem right now, though, for Miro is that he's operating as a solo. Has to burn through his medkit, but he's still not done with this engagement. We checked in so early on with Miro and Dukes. up against the likes of Glory for God and Tankacito, and the fact that those two still haunting Miro and Dukes, still holding them up. They are far north on the map, all the way in Classy Courts. This exchange so far between these two teams has left both of them worse for wear, because even if Tankacito and Dios manage to get this elimination onto Miro, which doesn't look like it by the way that they're opting to rotate fully dead side in the water, it's going to take those teams so long to just actually make it into the zone that everyone else will have already gotten prime real estate for their positioning.
Yeah, the only thing Miro has going for him is that he still had his 400 medals, so he has an opportunity to bounce back, to say the least, but saving Dukes this late in the game is going to be a difficult task nonetheless. Here we have Cold and Acorn on that rise to the top right now. 200 points here after a big previous game, chucking them right into top 16 here. And I think Vivid framed this conversation best for Acorn and Cold. It would be quite the shame if today they play as we expect them to, which is hyper consistent and honestly pretty respectable eliminations in general if they just make it to endgame. So
again, though, the biggest difference really just being that Acorn and Cold have not had to deal with that immediate 50-50 up against the likes of Yasir and Krizix. Pollo and PETERBOT from way downtown of Grim Gate just being an absolute nuisance with this Thunderbolt of Zeus, spamming attacks, destroying everybody else's builds. They don't even care what happens next. They know nobody is able to really shoot at them because they have their underworld dashes. They have a little bit of mobility, so they're not fully locked into that animation by any means. And it's just displacing everyone else in the lobby.
I respect it. They're looking for any box. They're just lighting it up at this point. When you have a lead like that, you can just have fun. Take a look at Trashy.
Oh, nice.
Nice little tag out the sky right there. Little laser focus to close in the elimination as well. Meanwhile, Paco and Mixon. I think Paco and Mixon's rotations can surely be studied. They've done a great job playing dead side rotates, whether it's going west or east.
They see these old ramps, though. They know there's got to be some other competitors nearby, forced to dive a little bit sooner to touch ground because they had to get these bandages going. They needed to make sure that they don't find themselves too weak by the time they get into zone. One good break for them could potentially be, though, maybe trying to make use of a campfire nearby their current location over at Charon's Crossing. Very high odds that they're going to be able to run into one. But at the same time, Oliver OG and Larson tangling currently with Dragon and Poppy Blast. It's all about the control of the Rift Island right now, and walls just getting melted non-stop by this waterbending mythic. Oliver and Larson both have one, and it's just such a threat here. Dragon, Poppy Blast, they fully understand that they cannot keep up. They're going to back off for the time being and just allow Oliver OG and Larson the free capture point here of Rift Island. It's a nice little goodie loot pile now that Oliver and Larson are going to surely be able to make good use of.
You know, double water mythic right there beats double Hades chain through the box, you know? So I think I'll take that. I'll take that.
No problem.
Maybe have to ask some of the players later on whether or not they agree with your sentiment on that, because I don't know, man. I saw some pretty crazy things with those chains of Hades.
So that's my point. It's like, I would rather have someone...
Oh, you'd rather have the waterbending mythic.
Yes, the infinite pressure from waterbending than two players diving in with the Hades chains.
I thought you were trying to say the other way.
That fight would have ended if it was the other way around.
Giant Surge Tower, just smack dab in the middle of Grim Gate. Sphinx, though, has lost threats. He's just trying to keep an incredibly low profile right now. Can hear players scurrying around underneath him. The other challenging task involved with this current position as well. PETERBOT Pollo directly above his head now. A Sphinx just praying nobody spots him out, hiding in between these different pre-built layers others have established. But now sees a moment to strike, jumps in. Cold, though, immediately
Peter
smacks
has
him
someone.
down. This is our elimination.
He
Why
has
are
like
you trying
800
to
points already.
intervene? Because it looked like Pollo was actually part
I
of the
think he could just-
casualties involved.
I think you
Yeah, that
just
was
log
crazy.
off
I
right
don't
now.
know where Cold came
Like
from
they
at
said.
that point. Quick read there. Kanata and Cooper under serious pressure once again right now. Look at
Unless
the heals,
this team
Taco.
does something.
Shields
If they won
gone.
like 4 games.
Down to, it looks like they used up their Flowberry Fizz. Like, this is just really rough for Team Dignitas's Kanata and Dig Cooper. So unfortunate, but there's still developments happening all around the map right now. There's still
That is the most
opportunity for
stacked
Kanata and Cooper
team.
because guess who has just been taken out? It's Pollo and PETERBOT. Still, Pollo lets his guard down, and we just talked about how Acorn found his pick out of nowhere.
Oh my.
He does it again. Golden Acorn, the duo, right now on a comeback here. Might be the saviors for the NA standings at this point, but we still have PETERBOT standing here.
As
That's
long as
perfect.
PETERBOT
That
is
was
up,
cool.
I will never count this duo out. The way that we saw both PETERBOT and Pollo individually clutch up in multiple matches during day one MDF, it is just impossible to factor them out. Whether it is as an individual or as a duo, these guys are just nasty with their gameplay performance. Granted, no white heals, though, is going to make this situation a lot more difficult. But Frostmon and Saucy likely not even aware of the fact that PETERBOT is a solo in that box right now. Checking back in, though, with Kanata and Cooper. They are definitely worse for wear in this current position. But if they get this
Dude,
pick onto
everyone is
Paco
fucking
without drawing too
Kanata.
much attention, but no, instead sprayed. Material count just so low. Kanata and Cooper, they have relived this exact situation over and over again throughout Grands. But how many more times do they have to bring it back to life?
Yeah, what do you do here? Like, he needs to get into a fight. They land on a team. It's Paco and Mixon here. They definitely have the HP advantage. But Kanata's turning up right now. Beautiful tag to keep him in the game right now. Otherwise, Surge would have already been doing damage because it is now officially active and they just slipped below. So it's all or nothing right now for Kanata and Cooper. And realistically, the odds are put and pinned against them. And he misses the shots that matter. But Cooper's there to back him up and they fend off Paco and Mixon, who go running, and this is one of the problems with battling here inside the underworld. Everyone has dashes, right? It doesn't get any easier. Cooper goes into the box, and he finds one. Kanata needs to hit this tag. He gets one, and then a second to keep them in the running.
Oh shit.
And just enough time, Taco, just enough time to get the
Kanata's
pick up here
fucking
onto
soon.
Cooper.
They are isolated currently from the
Kanata's
rest
soon.
of the lobby. That quick moment of relief, that's the break that they needed here in Game 8. PETERBOT, meanwhile, still trying to establish his lead, maintain his dominance. Pikes absolutely massacred in the distance thanks to that waterbending mythic that PETERBOT is rocking, but his builds are incredibly low. He definitely still needs to figure out a white heal situation, and he's got to do it fast because he is running out of time. The rest of the lobby starting to pull into his current position. He's playing from the low ground, trying to make sure that nobody spots him out while he's looking for the reform of his materials.
You gotta respect the risk PETERBOT's willing to take right here. Most players would probably, you know, throw a little cone over just to safely pickaxe away at that brick, but no, he's want to risk it all just for the small lead there. Let's take a look at G Monster, barely above as well. This is gonna be a very, very scrappy endgame. You can just tell. Look at all the HP differences with every team in the distance. The nameplates folks are hurting everywhere. And this is what you want if you're a player like G Monster right now, but no damage coming his way just yet.
Currently in the top 10, though, this could be a great opportunity for G Money and Reciprocal to build their way up in the leaderboard standings. Only got one elimination. Excuse me, no, that's PETERBOT with his one elimination that he found earlier onto Pikes. Trying to do his best to tarp through some of these mid-ground layers, low-ground area, but Hamzo and Rise just on the other side of his walls. PETERBOT going for the reload in advance for that waterbending mythic. Wants to make sure that if he does get caught up in an engagement, he's able to have at least some form of fight back, but Cold and Acorn These two still running it down, dominating the low ground. Aaron and Chance looking like they're on their last bit of life, and sure enough, when Cold and Acorn come knocking on the backside of your walls, you have to expect what they're after. It's just too easy to find these double eliminations.
Yeah, they're just racking them up now. 6 eliminations for them. You get to watch it back one more time. Look at how clean that was right there. Ball take, the edit, the monsters tag right behind it. Kanata and Cooper on the move right now, though, finding a player into the box, bringing him down, and Kanata gets what he's asked for. And that's a huge pump shot to the face, unfortunately. Can Cooper get the save here? He definitely has enough time on the clock. But no, Trashy gets into the builds there and finishes his duo. That's rough, but hey, he's still alive. Placement points are being given out. But it doesn't really matter. As long as PETERBOT's in the game, they're not truly closing the point gap. The pressure on nonetheless. Trashy and Skittles here having a real chance now. Meanwhile, on high ground, Clicks an epic whale.
And they drop down.
On it. They're going from high ground to high ground, challenging Acorn and Cold down low here.
Might have bit off a little bit more than they could chew, though. They've got to be careful because Acorn and Cold, they've got more than one team on their same layer. Clicks and Epic doing what they can to just prevent Bolts from having a chance with Bryce.
Yeah, you dropped down on the nastiest team.
All the while, Cooper, backside, immediately spotted out, though. Doesn't even get a chance to keep his run going any further. At least managed to dip into the placement points, so that's for sure. Cold and Acorn, though, dropped from that secondary height all the way to low ground, and it's PETERBOT, of all people, who finds that elimination.
The story comes full circle. That is a revenge elimination. If you've been paying attention, Cold took down Boyo earlier. PETERBOT claps back in the endgame. So he does get the last laugh here as he continues to run away with things, because it does look like, of course, Cooper and Kanata are officially out as well. So look at that here on high ground. My oh my, it's Clicks an Epic Whale down low. Bolt and Bryce surging up the standings right now. 3 eliminations and another end game for them. Talk about a big opportunity here for them as they're working their way towards the top 3.
The moment anyone looks up, though, Clicks, he only had 6 builds. Last we checked in, doing what he can to try and escape from the clutches of Bolts and Bryce. Currently controlling the secondary height. They've got a quick pause. Shield potion being utilized, but Clicks again, 0 builds. And it's PETERBOT, though, losing practically all of his HP. Clicks didn't find that final shot. Skittles, though, his duo Trashy will make sure to get the job done. But at the same time, Trashy having lost Skittles, PETERBOT still very happy at the sabotage he was able to play.
See, Trashy is bouncing back and left and right there, indecisive. What side he wants to exit out of the zone. He's just players everywhere.
Oh
This
my.
is it, though. Finally out of material. Players above him. Players coming out the storm. Bolts just gets rocked, but not before he gets the elimination credit. Meanwhile, Re and Ritual on the low ground, running things to the ground here. 7 eliminations and counting now as they go for high ground. Bryce is in a battle there, and it's not going to be enough. It seems like Ritual and Re will maintain the dominant position here against the 2 solos of Bugha and TK. TK eliminated. 2v1 situation. Re and Ritual managed to do it again here. Another endgame for them, and look at this. From out of the conversation to very much in this conversation now. 470 points and counting if they can get this elimination, which they likely would. Bugha's on the run, but for how much longer?
This is big Bugha.
Bugha's got to be down to his final bit of builds, but it's just the split approach now. Bugha isolated finally. Ritual is going to drop down from his perch and make sure to take down Bugha in game number 8.
Good person won now.
Ritual, though, way to come alive in this final moments, because this is a much-needed victory royale. That's going to give them some great points in the leaderboard.
Yeah, that's going to at least put them in 2nd place now, because with, you know, getting close to that 500 point mark, at least gives them a real fighter's chance. And look at this, they really have managed to rocket their way back up. Tons of elims, the end game, they played it flawlessly, executed the retake for high ground. You just have to genuinely appreciate the consistency we're seeing all of a sudden now from Re and Ritual. And not only that, it was from a low ground performance, right? Those are always super, super fun to watch. And respect to Bugha, second place. Bugha also having his time in the limelight. So there it is. Game 8 now concluded for the King Reet. And of course, Ritual here back to back. And you know what? They've been a long-standing dude. They're only getting better, Taco.
For sure, and I think they just did such an excellent job as well, just staying ahead of the zone, playing that front side. But there's a lot more that took place throughout the course of Game 8, so Zeke, Kelly, you know what to do.
Thank you guys so much. Shout out to Reet and Ritual getting themselves the victory royale. Remember, 100 points. Bing, bang, bosh. Just like that. Get in the VR. It's done. It's over. Competition. All right, everybody go home. We're going. See you guys. Just kidding. Wow, they got themselves the victory royale here. Again, remember, guys, this 1.5 times multiplier, it makes such a massive difference. And all you need is a single game like this, right? Suddenly, this top 5 completely shaken up.
Yeah, there's like 17 storylines that I kind of want to recap after that game, but let's focus on the big one, right? Reet and Ritual grabbing the victory royale. Kelly, this looked a little bit like deja vu, right? Holding the low ground, controlling it, picking up refreshes, and then finally when it comes down to it, yeah, no, they didn't necessarily have to 2v2 for this win, but only solos left in the top 5 outside of them, so it was an easy cleanup.
And we heard Taco talking about it, that they always stuck to the front of zone, and that is due to the fact that they always prioritize those forecast towers, knowing exactly where the zone is going to pull and being able to control the rest of the lobby because of that. And just seeing both of these players fragging out, grabbing 10 eliminations total, and jumping up the leaderboard, I cannot wait to see where they're placing, because unfortunately, Kanata and Cooper, we all thought was the potential hope of being able to take down PETERBOT and Pollo, but now it looks like it might be Reet and Ritual.
Crazy stuff. Crazy stuff. It's almost like if we had some standings, we could take a look. We'll get there in a second because, yeah, you guys are going to see this top 5 and you'd be like, I'm sorry, one game did what? No, PETERBOT and Pollo are still at the top. Don't just, they're fine. They're on it, their own. I want to keep looking at highlights from this game, though. This game, second of the day, 8 overall. Now players are starting to come alive, right? They're really starting to show up in big ways. And take a look, Reet and Ritual, after that game, the victory royale, suddenly, they have just jumped up into second place. They've said, everyone else, step aside. We want some of this PETERBOT Pollo action.
491 points for Ritual and Reet. Second place. Kanata and Cooper, Kelly, they are dropping fast.
Yeah, they just keep getting into these rough situations where Kanata's going down early and Cooper just can't hold it out too long. And it's so rough to see, but still, 4 more games to go in this 1.5 format. There's still plenty of opportunity for them to jump into our top 3 spot right here. And you can see in 7 zone just what shambles they are in. And it's actually Cooper that went down early here, with Kanata being able to bring him up, but unfortunately it only lasted for so long.
Yeah, and you know, listen, another kind of storyline that I think is the biggest one so far after those 2 games. You know, of course, we have day 1 and then we have day 2. So far, the best performing team on day number 2 right now. Zeke, you want to go ahead and guess, actually? Can you guess what the best performing team on day number 2 so far is?
Is it Reet and Ritual?
Nope, it's not. By 2 points, it's Bugha and Agers. Look at them, 6th place right now. They started the day in 28th. How are they in 6th?
Jumping up 9 placements. 9 placements, Kelly. You talked about it. A 1.5 times multiplier. You just need one good game.
That's so true, and I'm looking back to their day 1 performance where, you know, you see 34th, 24th, 47th. They've gotten a 3rd and a 2nd place so far. They're performing the way that PETERBOT and Pollo did yesterday, so that means that the victory royale is going to be next, right? Because I think that's what the script was for day 1.
Yeah, you guys talk about it. I'm gonna look at the script real quick. Hold on one sec.
Oh, thank you. Okay. I mean...
Yep, that's what it looks like. I mean, I don't know. I didn't write the script. Yeah, guys, we only have 4 more games left to go here. With this multiplier, things are really starting to shake up, right? And I'm really starting to get worried because some of these duos, like Kanata and Cooper, you know, they're kind of put in these shambles situations. What are you guys seeing out of these games? Why are kind of duos, especially now when we kind of need to be putting on these big numbers, what's happening?
You know what I think it is, right? Of course, Kanata and Cooper, they land to the west of Grimgate, and kind of me and Kelly were talking about this. PETERBOT and Pollo aren't actually really rotating out of Grimgate over the course of the first 2 games, and it's creating this little area around Grimgate where there's like 7 teams, right? Because everyone's getting held up by PETERBOT and Pollo still being there, whereas yesterday, all these teams were able to just walk through Grimgate, and I think that's kind of messing up Kanata and Cooper's rotate, so we have to see them adjust.
Oh, that's a good point. Also, I want to point out PETERBOT using Zeus's lightning in that game from halfway across the map. Absolutely wild. I just think that there's nothing that they can't pull out right now and somehow find a way to make it work. So even though that wasn't the best game we saw from PETERBOT and Pollo, still being able to come out strong. I mean, they got 10th place. That's the worst performance they have had all weekend long.
Not bad, right? Not bad at all. Another duo doing pretty well. Bryce and Bolts, right? Currently sitting in that top 3. They have to just hold on, right? They're thinking, this is my global championship spot. I'm literally looking at this seat.
Yeah, I mean, it would be crazy for this team to go ahead and pull it out, right? I mean, of course, we're used to saying Bryce and Chubbs, but now Bryce and Bolts, and this has been a team that's been playing extremely well. You know, a 23rd place was game number 7, so not that good, but they picked it back up in that game right there. 4th place, Kelly, with 9 elims.
And what I love to see from this duo is that they were so placement heavy yesterday, where I think the most amount of eliminations they got was only 5, and to see them here, 9 eliminations as well. That's good to see, and I think a lot of that has to do with that they're not too worried about Storm Surge tags. They do such a good job taking these long-range tags, and that allows them to get into the mid and late game without too much concern, because again, Storm Surge is just such an issue for so many duos.
Yeah, we still haven't quite locked down the formula we need, right? A lot of duos, again, in shambles situations, but no problem. We have 4 more games to go. Anything can and will happen. With that being said, though, game number 9 is ready for us. So find your seats on the bus. It's go time.
Thank you, Zeke. And I think I speak for the community when I say I remember Bryce's reactions back at the last in-person event, the shocking look of winning in person. I'd love to see him back, of course, on the big stage, if you will. So the top 3 shaking up here, Taco. I don't think we expected it to be such a different top 10 already.
But at the same time, we definitely anticipated maybe a little bit of shakeups because that 1.5 times point multiplier, we saw it earlier today in EU. Andalex and Sato have to give them an honorable shout out from 46 all the way to 5th because of this day 2 multiplier, MDF. So now, game number 9, let's see what happens next.
I am right there with you because new teams are popping up. Aegis and Booga from the gutters to the top of the standings right now. Of course, you have Bryce and Bolts here. Even that, like we just talked about, it doesn't even roll off the tongue the way I'm so used to some of these other duos that have participated with one another. But a team that has been sticking it out side by side is Reet and Ritual. And I can really respect the fact that they've continued to remain not only strong as a pairing, but seems to have been finding their stride here in today's competition. But here's a team that has to come back, man. Blake and Macwood, come on. Do it for the fellas here. They had a chance. They won game 6 yesterday. We're in game 9. They were taken out last round. This is a opportunity now for Blake and Macwood to go ahead and prove that they could be the stronger duo here. Otherwise, I mean, their chances are just going to be out the window. And I think their confidence as well, Taco, if they can't win this early game battle here.
It's definitely not been an easy one, but Blake, despite taking that 15 fall damage early on, it's all because of the fact he just wanted to rush over to these slat barrels, get full utility out of them. It's always the vault at Grand Glacier that they are after, and they know it's only a matter of time before School and Thoric are trying to pinpoint their exact location. Likely going to be a brief fight between those two very shortly here to come. And Victor and B-Dog, though, just tuning in here at the estate station. They had a little bit of action early on. Poppy Blast Dragon, again, the team that we talked about, just kind of playing map roulette at this point, but they are running into problems everywhere they go.
Good little clapback here for Rapid and Batman Booga. Game 8, they were eliminated super early.
He just did that
Okay,
all by
Rapid,
himself.
show us what you got, kid. There you go. He puts quick work onto Crispin Vorteca there before Batman Booga can even jump in. No fear. All accurate. Well played for him. There's fights going on everywhere. So this is, this is the point I feel like in the tournament where we can really see that duels have gotten into their groove. They're comfortable with the battles. I think early game jitters, they're gone. Everyone knows now. Let's put up the performance. Make excuses for later. And it does seem like G-Monster is in a 1v1 right now. Has the shield advantage here. And the tag advantage.
Nice.
That finishes the job pretty quickly there for him and Reciprocal. And you know what? They were the stronger pairing of the duos here as far as points are concerned at the moment. 283 now. Big swing for them.
A little bit of a hindrance, though, for G-Money, as he's going to have to now run all the way back to Rebel's Roost, utilize that reboot van. But kind of revisiting the topic, though, Chris Borteka, I mean, yes, we see a big win for Batman Booga and Rapid, but Research Rock was uncontested typically for Crispin Borteka, so maybe just caught by surprise by a little bit of shakeups. It was Blake and Macwood. They try to write their own story here currently. School, Thoric, both relatively low, but Blake, in a similar circumstances, last of the splashes, going to be expended here now as Macwood, a little bit of overheight, almost gets the right side peek onto Thoric. Luckily, the backup from Blake is good. Macwood, even better still, knocked onto School. It's all down to Thoric now to keep Game 9 dreams alive. But Blake and Macwood, they are not going to back down. They know exactly what kind of advantage has just been presented to them. And sure enough, Blake on the wraparound. 2 eliminations here now for Blake and Macwood, and the entirety of Grand Glacier to themselves.
Yeah, Thoric cannot make that mistake. School can't make that mistake where they just allow Macwood to take the cone. I mean, there was so much time for them to, really protect themselves, and I mean, they almost get what they asked for there. Meanwhile, PETERBOT picked up an elimination while we were focused in on Macwood and Blake there, and it does look like it was onto the hands of Zabi here, who's outside the Grim Gate. We talked about teams that have been almost, plans thwarted, if you will, because PETERBOT and Pollo decided to just stick around the Grim Gates and say, hey, you know what? Let the team come to us, man. Yesterday we played a little bit more aggressively, moving out of our draw spot, but today we're going to stick around now. So I feel like they're just like out maneuvering all the competitions, likely new strategies.
They hadn't even gone for Cerberus yet, though. That's the other impressive part. They were just hunting that early elimination onto whoever just happened to stumble into their turf here at Grim Gate. But now, not a soul in sight. It's all going to come down to PETERBOT and Pollo collecting that aspect of agility one more time. However, Kanata and Cooper, they have been in very dire situations all throughout the course of today. Even yesterday was a rough one, but they still managed to make it work. Up against the likes now of Yumi and Vert. Kanata and Cooper, though, they're pretty split. They could have 2 very good angle approaches. Cooper's able to open up a line of sight from behind Yumi and Vert. That could be a surprise bit of damage. But first off, Kanata, he's got to be able to hold his own. There's a lot of pressure being applied at the same time from Yumi and Vert. Now they're going to have to pay note to Cooper approaching from behind. And Cooper, that's going to be his heads up. He just needs to reunite with Kanata and look for a different method of approach.
That splash is going to come down. They got what they were looking for, some damage. No eliminations, so they back off. Meanwhile, Booga and Agers continuing to play well today. Things haven't gotten easier, though, here at the Mount Olympus. They have continued to remain contested by one team or another.
But for Yumi and Vert, again, a team that was traditionally landing over by Classy Courts, seems like they got sick of the 2 other teams contesting them there, potentially Hazens and Junior, as well as Pancasito and Dios. So just very interesting to see how these kinds of methods develop for different teams. It's Booga and Agers encountering some troubles, but at the same time, with the wings of Icarus and the fast rotates on those short distances, Booga seems as if he doesn't necessarily want to take that fight. He just wants to prioritize getting a little bit more resources in general.
Paco's already lost Vixen right now, so he's getting hunted here by Curly. It's the final desperate stand here. Yeah, he knows it. We know it. He is cranking right now. And this is what you want to do. Hit your shots. Stay on high ground. Don't allow the team to best you. And they are doing exactly what they need to do. Chop it down. Don't give them the fair 1v1. All around, we're seeing exactly what we should. And in good Fortnite fashion, a third party comes in. So, you know, everything is going the way it is supposed to here, which is unfortunate for Paco right now, who's been putting up an excellent defense so far. Ooh.
Gotta place his wall. Holy shit.
Not gonna be enough in the end.
Too much of an HP disadvantage, but for Raze, the damage has been done. That massive tag at the end still gonna be his demise because Rapid, Batman Booga, they know they've got the knock. They're gonna immediately take the zip line. That initial crank up is what drew the attention in the first place, along with the shots being fired. Batman Booga and Rapid, though, still gonna play this a little bit slower than I'd initially anticipated, given how aggressive they had seemed like they wanted to be. But no, the call to back off. Check the minimap. It's another team likely scouted out by Rapid because of this overhead view that they've currently got, and Batman Booga thinks better still. Doesn't want to get caught in a third-party circumstance like what he just performed up against the likes of his opposition.
Yeah, still opting to hold it down though. Has the stronger angle, has a zip line he can camp out here, so for sure has options. But yeah, the bunker's opening up now. That's going to be the reward for, of course, sticking this zone play out. Meanwhile, Rita and Ritual, seeing what they have managed to put together for their early game. It's a rotation. They're in the zone, but not quite safe just yet. Meanwhile, PETERBOT and Boyo, what is going on over here? It's a battle outside the Grim Gate. G Monster and Reciprocal. We saw them playing that north side, lingering around, but it looks like they were sticking around for a little too long. So now they have the attention.
This is not the kind of attention you want either. So much heat on G Money and Reciprocal's current position. PETERBOT just gonna clear out a couple of trees, get a little bit of brick and wood re-established for his builds. But again, PETERBOT and Boyle, they just have the full luxury of deciding when they actually want to commit to an engagement, and currently it just doesn't seem as though anybody can actually threaten their current position in this game, and it's just going to be even more difficult still for other teams. As Vivid and Kelly pointed out on the desk, nobody can really rotate through Grim Gate. That's normally a nice and easy shortcut using some of the underworld dashes and whatnot, but PETERBOT and Pollo just holding down that entire section of the map. Everyone else kind of at their mercy.
Gotta hit these tags here. They're not gonna reveal themselves this easy later on in the games. That's for sure.
Fun's over once the Waterbending Mythic comes out. Players just hanging out in their respective surge towers. Bolts, Bryce, big tag. That's the headshot that Bolts was looking for. Those are the kinds of damage applications that you need to be consistent with if you don't want to worry about your surge later on in this match. And when we talk about the fact that Bolts and Bryce, they're really on a run right now. They just squeaked into that third place position on the leaderboard. And keep in mind, yes, there's always a prize pool involved, but at the end of the day, these players, they're fighting for their ticket to Texas because they want to be a part of that global championship.
Ritual read on the move right now. A little bit of the low ground here. The Reckless Railways. This is kind of cool though, because like we just saw, Bryce's position is just above them, so a clash might be imminent here for Ritual and Reed. We'll see how things start developing a little later into the game. 40 duos still remaining here in game number 9. The grand finals right now. Things are starting to cook up here. The Rift Island's going to awaken as well. Poyo and PETERBOT have a chance to go for it. We've seen them do this before. Not that they really need anything, judging by the loadout. Hey, tags are nice. Fights are fun. They have such a monstrous lead. They could do anything. PETERBOT pushes in as I say that. And it's Krizix who gets caught off. Isolated there. Trapped, if you will, before he can even make a move. That's crazy.
We have 4 more games.
And that quick stat even wilder still. PETERBOT has more eliminations on his own, 34, than any other duo has combined. As a solo, that is just a ridiculous feat to accomplish. And now PETERBOT, he wants to extend that number even further still. Yasir was trying to claim the capture point, but knew it was likely only a matter of time before he got pressured himself after losing his duo Krizix just moments ago. Yasir building on the side of Rift Island, finally forced to drop, but PETERBOT, he's got dashes, no problem. He's gonna follow still. Yasir down to his last little bit of HP.
Ooh.
Made it into the rift just in time. But Poyo still at the top. Another team as well taking note of Yasir gliding through the sky. If it wasn't Poyo, it could have been anyone else in that circumstance. But PETERBOT and Poyo, they just have zero intentions of slowing down anytime soon.
You know, Taco, back in the day, there was this really old tech that you could actually weapon swap in the air and get one shot off when you hit the rift and you first spawn in at the top. I thought for a moment, I just had a flashback, like, is PETERBOT gonna be able to pull that off? Like, and if you remember how to do it, it might still be an option. That would have just, I think that would have bricked the internet. Not that, you know, he's kind of already done that. I believe he's trending at this point. But nonetheless here,
So
Clicks an
weird.
Epic Whale, the Lavish Lair, still at their home drop spot. So it seems like they've moved back in after taking a couple fights, and their
Looking to win all the
material
rest of
count
games.
is showing us that it's been a bit of a struggle here.
It's been the narrative of their entire Grand's performance so far. Just struggling game after game with maintaining their materials and resources. Even the heal situation, not exactly what I would consider to be ideal. 25 fizz, 4 clicks, 5 bandages, 2 bananas.
And 10.
Maybe Epic's got a little bit better loot at their disposal, but at the same time, if you're gonna take as many early game engagements as they seem to be going for, playing for the weapon bunker, they've got to be able to close them out. And it's just been so difficult throughout the course of this weekend because so many teams are either just backing off entirely after getting a little bit of surge tags in tow, and then that leaves both sides essentially to just have burned through so many mats, and neither really prospering for it.
Gotta weigh the risk of investing this early, but hold up. Cole picked off from water-bending Mythics off in the distance here. Bush comes out. Spock and Pars right now, likely putting some pressure in. Oh no, it's Saucy and Frost from a crazy angle up top. They just got a tag there onto Cold as well. They've surely pinpointed them out. We need to shoot back, Acorn. I don't know what you're doing right now, but just allowing them to fire down like this is unacceptable.
Acorn, I think, just waiting for Cole to regenerate some of those shields off of the small shield potions that they had available. Splitting a little bit of their heals around, but Saucy and Frostbomb, they might be able to count their lucky stars for the time being. Acorn probably recognizing the fact that with the current location of Rift Island, it'd be very difficult for them to immediately challenge where they're being aggressed from, because they don't want to expose themselves in case there's teams still lying about on Rift Island. As we know from the luxury of the casting position, that bird's eye view, PETERBOT, Poyo, they're the ones hanging out top of Rift Island, and they have waterbending Mythics at their usage, so it could be tough to escape if they spot anybody out. Same circumstance here for Rise and Yamzo, just applying a decent bit of pressure to teams slightly west of their current location. It's for good reason. 18 below, but they found their opportunity. They're trying to pounce. Bryce and Bolts utilizing some of their hard materials, probably gauging. This is a team that is clearly desperate. They're trying to go way too ham into our walls, we'll just back off. We'll create some space. We'll let the Storm Surge do the rest for us.
Yeah, this is a cool fight because Bryce and Bolts are holding third place right now. And not only that, Ryze and Yamzo likely have a very good chance before the year's over to also appear at the LAN. So this could be a storied clash in the making right now. Let's see it. Yamzo and Ryze starting to make a move here. 102 below. They have to get in and find this duo, but they've lost track of them. And Bryce and Bolts, I think, have just outwitted them by positioning a little bit better. And there goes Bryce turning things around, and like they should have definitely won that. But still, Yamzo is alive, so it's not over yet.
But again, Yamzo, Ryze, they were below that surge threshold. They went from 18 to 89 last we checked in. Yamzo could potentially still be suffering, but granted, now he recognizes the fact that he's split between two separate teams. And it's going to get even more difficult still, because 135 below, now he needs more than just one good shot. He needs a couple, if not several or more. Time just slipping through his fingers as he tries to navigate his way into finding some form of action that won't get him fully eliminated in the process.
Yamzo just holding on by a thread right now. Another duo on the walls here. Can he escape? These are not his builds. Open wall to the side. Very difficult spot to play out of. Definitely unlikely he survives much longer. There it is. Fully finished. Meanwhile, Kanata also fighting with his own demons on the other side here. He's got Zabi down low and Neko there. Finishes them up. Those are not only good damage, but a good set of eliminations for him. Let's go ahead and keep him in the running right now. Kanata is trying to fight back for second place here at this point. He's lost the lead to Ritual and Reet.
That's gotta hurt. His shield is already only barely hanging above that halfway point. A couple small shield potions. Very valuable resources that you typically want to be able to hold, especially when the builds can put you in a tough spot. But Cooper and Kanata, this is by far one of the best positions that we have seen them in so far today. And now it all comes down to whether or not they can transition this into an excellent late game run, because they're gonna need it if they want to retake their position second on the leaderboard. First it comes down, these players in the boxes, they know these builds do not belong to them. They've got a little bit of height leverage now, turning back, trying to spray and control where everyone else is rotating behind them.
Not only that, they used their underworld dashes that they were keeping in the chamber as well. So this is it. It's all or nothing now for them to try to find these tags here. And if things don't go well with teams in a distance, they'll just have to jump on the team below them, and that's Larson and Oliver OG. So keep your eyes here locked in on Kanata and Cooper. Not looking good for Epic Whale in the distance. His teams are focusing in on him. Bach and Pars being one of the few to put the pressure down. Meanwhile, Bolts is down, and Bryce is in the storm here. And although he doesn't have an issue with the surge, he's got an issue with the lobby pressuring him, and there it is. Our third place team has been taken out, fallen, if you will.
That is so big for Kanata and Cooper. But as we already know, they are not the only ones trying to regain positions on the leaderboard. Cold and Acorn. 4x scope on the Nemesis AR just makes the accuracy all the easier to come by. A good pickup, a good knock coming out of Cold. And Acorn and Cold will immediately dive even further onto that position. Tavern, the next elimination that they're able to claim. Decent pickups all across the board here. But it's really Reet and Ritual who are trying to just ensure that they replicate their recipe for success so far here today. They've got Azens completely on the run, but Reet and Ritual, they don't necessarily need that elimination. What they do need, though, is some material. So, actually, I take it back. A refresh. There's only one way to get it, so Hazens, isolated as a solo, that might be what Reet and Ritual are looking for.
Yeah, they're coming off a 10 elimination win, so a top 20 here is not too bad. However, this is where they managed to find the bulk of their eliminations. Meanwhile, Cold and Acorn just... Where was this Cold and Acorn yesterday when we needed them to actually have a foundation to start with here today? Because if they if they would have done well, we would see them very, very likely up at the top based off of their performances so far. Just trending in the right direction right now, playing exceptionally well here for day 2. So is Macwood and Blake, low-key. If they didn't fall in Game 8, they'd also be up somewhere at the top because they've managed to continue to play for high ground. I think Blake and Macwood just figured it out. You know, Macwood's going back to his early high ground, young calc Macwood days. Back when Zexro was in the conversation, like, just go for height. And he's taking Blake with him, and I love this.
Everything just stems right back to the very start for a lot of these teams, though. Acorn and Cold. Again, the vault fight against Yasir and Krizix, that early 50-50 doesn't seem like it's been a factor. Same case scenario for Blake and Macwood. Whenever they win the off-spawn against School and Thoric, they're able to make some very real runs into the late game. Muzz, unfortunately, on the other side of the barrel, just scoped down and eliminated. But that's some good looks for Blake and Macwood. Another 6 points off that elimination. Better opportunities even still to make another run here. Try and get some high
digitals.
6 below, the damage continuing to be an issue here. PETERBOT and Pollo shredding players out the sky, you know, just doing PETERBOT and Pollo things as they go for high ground now. And they have the material count to hold it here. It's a perfect executed high ground take as we're inside the zone 10, just a couple of moments now before this zone fully closes out. And look at this, they get the elimination credit onto Yumi, who just got picked up in the nick of time by Vert there.
That was
double points likely earned for them there. Meanwhile, Pars and Baka trying to fight for top 3 too. You know, honestly, top 3 is really, really going to be contended for. Second and third place is Re and Ritual have managed to put up big numbers. Kanata and Cooper here, Blake and Macwood. I mean, NA wants this global championship seat. We're seeing that play out for sure.
Yeah, but Batman, Booga, and Rapid, they're going to shut down any hopes that Baka and Pars might have had in Lobby 9. Booga and Agers found a little crevice here. A moment to try and regain their thoughts. Figure out, do we aggress the high ground? Do we just keep trying to tarp through the low instead? But it's only Cold and Acorn on secondary height that might have a real opportunity here to threaten PETERBOT and Pollo up top. Instead, it's it's Ritual. Pump as well, directly behind, but Reed's gonna be the first to get knocked. Can't dance around the cone any longer. Cold credited with yet another one. 5 in total, 7 altogether. As Kanata and Cooper, no builds, but they still got the dream going here. They saw Bryce and Bolts likely falling in that elimination feed.
this shit.
That's a big shout for them to try and reclaim at least their spot in the top 3.
Miro down, Pump down, Reap down, Booga down. You know, everyone's just falling at this point. Ritual finally eliminated as well. Meanwhile, Kanata and Cooper just working their way through the low ground here. No material. Bunkering down between the builds. Cooper and Kanata down low versus Acorn and Cold. In the mid ground, it's Blake and Macwood.
I don't understand why they
I think
spike.
PETERBOT and Pollo have jumped in to put their interest in the mix here.
Honest,
8 eliminations for Cold and Acorn in a top 3 here, Taco.
We getting this fucker ready.
But even better still is PETERBOT and Pollo's current position. They've got enough resources. Cold credited with another one. Kanata found out on this low ground. Low versus height. It's going to be the same storyline we've seen time and time again here in NA. But PETERBOT and Pollo, they are definitely in the driver's seat as Acorn tries to fight back, but it's just not good enough. Pollo going to be first one to drop down. Cold, though, has worked his way up to the high ground. He's fighting against PETERBOT. He's actually knocked PETERBOT. Cold could clutch this, but no. Pollo shuts it down. Another victory royale for PETERBOT and Pollo here in day 2.
PETERBOT and Pollo just had too much of an advantage in the high ground from 10th zone onwards. We knew what was going to happen, but we had to let the clock run and let it play out. In the end, though, Acorn and Cole definitely have one of the more impressive performances now for the second day of the FNCS Grand Finals. Well, that was game number 9. Let's take a look at those highlights one more time. It was the PETERBOT and Pollo show.
750 before even placement.
And, you know,
and
again, all credits to Blake and Mac with another endgame here, really showing up for this FNCS Grand Finals right now in the final moments. But in the end, Pollo manages to do it again here alongside PETERBOT, respectfully winning another game. It is looking very much like we all anticipated, which was big wins, flashy performances here, Taco.
Look, we know PETERBOT and Pollo have got first place locked down, but as far as second and third are concerned, things could start to get very questionable. So I want to take a look at those leaderboards. So Zeke, Vivid, and Kelly, what you got?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey guys. Me again. How's it going? Vivid, I don't know what to say. Take over, please. Wow, another Victory Royale. That's 4. That's 4 from PETERBOT and Pollo. You know what's crazy is EU. You know, they ended 888 points, and apparently PETERBOT and Pollo, they're trying to speed run a record. David, they said EU, you think you're better? No. We're just gonna go ahead and get 842 points, 4 Victory Royales out of 12 games. Vivid, I don't know. I don't know what we're watching here. This is absolutely an insane performance of just ridiculous proportions. They've not had a game outside of top 10. They have not had one game outside of top 10.
This was wild.
No, they are playing insane. And you know, Kelly, I remember we were kind of talking about PETERBOT and Pollo, right? Like it seems like they're going to win, and they can kind of coast to the win. But there was one thing that we wanted to note about this duo, and it's that they like to set records. And they set many records this season, but in grand finals, they continue to set records. This is the all-time NAC record for Victory Royales in a finals. And Kelly, they also have tied the record with 9 for the most consecutive top 10 games. You know what? You know what happened last time a team did that? That was Miro, Day, and Reverse in Chapter 2.
Whew. All they need is 70 more points to break the all-time record for points set by Zago and Shalom in Major 1, 912 points. And the way that they're going, I think they're going to achieve that.
Yeah, so next game, right? Next game.
Yeah.
It's all good. They'll be there. They'll be there. You know what? This is now the PETERBOT Pollo show. I don't think anyone else has any questions. These guys are basically your FNCS champions. All right, congratulations to them. We'll go and do this mad early. Congrats. I think we shift the conversation right now. Remember, global spots still on the line. What I want to do is start thinking about these standings and how these are coming together, because with 2 spots, whoever ends in those top 3, they're punching their ticket to the global championships, right? They're saying, hey, look, we're going, we'll be there, we'll be in Dallas, we're going to fight for a global championship title. And there's definitely a few names that are standing out to me here in this lobby, okay? Aside from PETERBOT and Pollo, they're doing amazing, okay? Reet and Ritual here, though, really putting on quite a performance for us here in Grand Finals of Major number 2. And, you know, they're still sitting really strong in second place. Now it's just about holding on, right? There is a little bit of a lead, but that 1.5 times multiplier, it could kind of spell disaster if they slip up even a single time. Take a look in second place, 569 points to Kanata and Cooper's 518. So, guys, this is still very close. But now they just have to start trying to push everyone else away.
Yeah, Kanata and Cooper, you know, I don't want to kind of frame it harshly or anything, but I'm going to go ahead and do that anyway. Finally, on day number 2, we see a good game from Kanata and Cooper, which is awesome to see, right? Like listen, I mentioned that the first 2 games, maybe some stuff was going on over at Grimgate. They had to make those adjustments. I don't 100% know if that's what was actually going wrong, but it seems like in game 3, finally, we see them where they're comfortable. They make it to the end game. They got their Storm Surge, looking healthy. They got extra builds, extra heals, and they made it to the end game, Kelly, and finally put up a good game.
Well, they actually were under Storm Surge at Zone 9. It wasn't until these final moments where they are on the low ground grabbing these eliminations that they were able to go above Storm Surge there. So I think you're still right that Karen's crossing that they're landing is just not that close to anyone else. And then the rotations that they have to make through, where probably PETERBOT and Pollo are eliminating everyone so that there's no one else for them to get shots on. But still, you're right. To see them be able to jump back up after the performance that we saw from them yesterday, that's good to see that they're not allowing this kind of negatively affect them. But Acorn and Cold still jumping up 5 placements into 5th place. Speaking of jumping up, Blake and Macwood also jumping into our top 10, but let's go back to Acorn and Cold.
Listen,
Take the words right out of my mouth.
I said
the
it.
words right out of my mouth.
I tried to tell him, Dig. I said, Acorn and Cold, don't do this. Don't do this. Day 2, we're gonna show up and fly up the leaderboard. 20 million. Are you guys serious? 5th place, 406 points. It doesn't really tell the story of Acorn and Cold. And honestly, I'm gonna combine this with Booga and Agers. Both of those two duos. If you were here to hear me say those names, you'd be like, oh yeah, probably after day 1 they were in 5th place, so it's kind of cool to see them in 5th. No, both of those teams did not have a good day 1. And the fact that they are both now towards the top of this leaderboard and potentially fighting for top 3 is absurd. I mean, I think that's got to be where our focus has to be.
And
without a doubt,
keep in mind, like, yes, they, Acorn and Cold, again, they've got spots. They were the first duo in NA to secure a spot to global championships. So at this point, they're fighting for prize money, right?
Yeah.
It's okay, even if they, let's say they somehow dethrone PETERBOT and Pollo. Cool. Then they're at this point they have spots, so they're playing for the prize money above all else. But before we get ahead of ourselves, I'm getting word. Games are ready to go. Once again, congratulations, PETERBOT, Pollo. You guys probably won, but let's see who secures these spots going to the global championships with our casters. MDF, Best Taco.
Yeah, that definitely solidifies what I would call is the checkpoint mark here for the second half of the grand finals today, as we're now Taco jumping into game 10 here shortly.
It's got to be such a good feeling if you are PETERBOT and Pollo, though. But again, we're still looking at some of the other teams to make their way across the finish line. 2nd and 3rd place, 1,000% still up for grabs. So many teams with their eyes on. And with game number 10 starting, we'll see what happens next.
Grand Finals Game 10 is now beginning. And you know what? It's nothing but entertainment for us here at the casters. Front row seats to, of course, the action. The PETERBOT and Pollo show has been raging on. And the comeback stories for the likes of Booga and Agers. I mean, we expect these teams to do well, so it's good to see them put on a performance here for day 2 when we have this 1.5x multiplier, because their fans expect it, right? We expected it coming into this.
Yeah, and I could probably yap forever about what PETERBOT and Pollo have managed to accomplish throughout this Grand weekend, but right now, Agers, Booga, so much duress, and Agers actually an early elimination. The comeback story for Agers and Booga shut down, and Zeus gonna hit Booga's own emote on him. The disrespect, MDF.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that one. That's rough.
That is crazy work.
Poppy Blast and Dragon mixing up their drop, going a bit south here, and doesn't work out. Oh, actually, whoa, I spoke a little too soon. I saw Poppy's Blast down and Dragon hurt, and I thought they were finished, but no. Dragon does clutch up there against Victor and B-Dog. Nicely done.
Just not something we've been able to say a whole lot of out of Poppy Blast and Dragon this weekend. They have definitely been more so on the receiving end than anything else, so it's nice to see them with a little bit of fight back still. At the estate station, they'll at least be able to claim that territory early on, but they might still have to deal with the likes of Clix and Epic Will a little bit later on. Cold and Acorn, though, this is really the true question mark of the weekend, MDF, because time and time again, we talked about the fact their day 1, not good. Their day 2, however, has been phenomenal so far, and they're making a very real run at that top 3.
Yeah, you know, I think it's the difference between quad-com and triple-com, right? Like, just one less team seems like has started to work for them. And, man, what an unfortunate turn of events for Macwood and Blake there, who when they have made it off the drop, they have really shown us what they're capable of. And for them to fall now, when every other time we've seen them here, especially on their day 2 performances, have been in endgame, it's just got to be disappointing to know that they're contested in what could have been, right? Had they just not had such a fair competition there at the drop, because they're meeting their match essentially.
It has felt like a very even split though between School Thoric, Blake, and Macwood.
Yeah.
Those teams definitely relatively well matched for each other. And now it's also going to come down to School and Thoric. Can they translate this early game off spawn win into a late game run? Because they're another duo that desperately needs some points if they want to get a little bit of leapfrog situation going inside of those leaderboards. Baka and Pars here now at the Ship It station, doing what they can to collect as many resources as possible. Kind of expecting them to look to contest or just try to claim outright Forecast Tower. Could go a really long way for those two in terms of their mid to late game strategies. And PETERBOT and Pollo, the sensation of NA here in Major 2. Cerberus kind of looks like the rest of NA right now. He's just getting dominated.
You love to see it. PETERBOT and Pollo, man, what a lead. And this is the framing of their success right there. That aspect of agility, medallion, giving them all the advantage. Or Zeus Thunderbolt action, if you've been waiting for it. Azens and Magia right now. 166 points earned here after 2 days of performance, coming into game 10 right now. Definitely short, I'd say, of their own expectations. However, we got a fight right now with Jack and Cease here against Pars and Baka. And Jack actually hits the opening tag, but Cease punished as well, so it's even trades on all sides. Like what we're seeing from Jack here as he's trying to claim some of the surrounding land.
Seems as if Baka and Pars, though, they were ready to fight back. Third party from afar sees Jack. Unk takes a massive shot straight to the chest, though. Cease on the run now. Can't get around the cone, though. Baka gonna knock him to start things off here. Jack now forced to disengage, trying to see if he can escape. But the waterbending mythic from afar, Pars, also wasting zero time, goes to the engagement, but Jack, he's still got some life left in him. Now it's Pars who gets knocked in return. It's all gonna come down to what Baka can do next. Fortunately, though, Baka does manage to solidify that victory overall, but he's still gonna have to find somewhere else for a reboot ban. He gets Pars' reboot card, but check it out, another team approaching from Pleasant Piazza. And Baka as a solo, he knows he doesn't stand a chance. He doesn't have that many resources left over after that last fight.
Yeah, I just can't help but think, like, Cease intentionally chooses a very mechanical, up-and-coming, promising duo to play with, and that is Jack. But when you have Baka and Pars open to edit on you and you're met face-to-face, that reaction speed, he got hit with 2 shotgun shots before he can even make a move. Doesn't matter how good you are, Baka. This is going to be a hard fight. You have Skittles and Trashy right here going up against the likes of 2 really good OG NA players, and Baka is doing what he has to earn his respect and honestly put the numbers down, forcing the chug splashes, solo splashes out of Trashy here. Says all that we need to know. Here comes the edit. Baits him in. Those are his walls.
Baka just has only a handful of builds left to work with, though.
How do you beat this, right? Like, this is crazy.
It is. It is not looking good for Baka. His best odds currently are just looking for an escape. He'll expend his final splash, picks up a fresh Flowberry Fizz, and is still just trying to escape here. But Trashy Skittles, they know this is a primo opportunity. They are not trying to let Baka escape. Finally, they whittle him down. They get that elimination that they were after all along. And Skittles, Trashy, now hanging out by the Ship It station. They can choose where they want to venture next. A little bit more action continuing to pick up here at Reckless Railways as well.
That was a direct exchange of positioning as well on the leaderboards. 8th place, taking out 7th, and now they are our 7th place team in the running here. Talking about well-positioned teams reading Ritual, you know, we just gotta jump in with them and see what they're up to. Not looking too hot for the material count, however, little fight potentially breaking out here. You know, one thing we noticed, actually, that I noticed last game is they really didn't have eliminations when they got to the end game. So they're doing something right where they're finding surge damage, although it's not exactly translating into big early game points.
But at the same time, if you get that surge damage early, you're going to get those points eventually because your placement's going to be a lot easier to come by when you can just focus exclusively on your positioning, on your rotations. Reet and Ritual, we've also seen a good amount of low ground play coming out of those two. They've been doing an excellent job at just traversing those low to mid ground layers. And if they can just maintain that same pacing that they've been able to repeat perform so far throughout the course of today, we could definitely be looking at them locking down that second place position.
Cooper and Kanata disengaging from Clix and Epic way on the outskirts of the map there. Can't help but wonder if Clix and Epic are due for a big game. We've seen them do it before here on a final stage. Kanata and Cooper making up for that unfortunate kickoff round, really slowing them down. Basically putting them in their own uphill battle for top 3.
They had top 3 heading into this game. They were able to reclaim it from Bryson Bolts, who had an unfortunate fall much earlier than they would have ever liked in that last match. But I think the big thing for me in Game 9 was Kanata actually clutched up, just managed to outlast Blake and Macwood to lock in that 3rd place for Lobby 9, and that definitely went a long way for them in helping them to overtake Bryson Bolts. But again, they're going to need to keep that up if they want to stay in that position. Quick glimpse of the leaderboard, and we're back. Checking in, Ritual, Reet. Of course, Reckless Railways, not always going to be the most friendly exchanges. And it seems as though School and Thoric, they've rotated now from their position at Grand Glacier. Just trying. They've got a long ways west to go from where the zone is pooling. Both sides seem to be fully aware of this. The real victory right now for Ritual and Reet is that they've got an ample amount of heals in their favor. And that's definitely going to bode well for them as they finalize making this next rotation.
A lot of teams here, but a couple caught up at the Reckless Railways for the fight, so should be a relatively smooth rotate for them as things start to line up. Meanwhile, PETERBOT and Boyo, screw rotating, let's fight. They have nothing to lose right now. It's such a monstrous lead over the competition. We're likely to see them do big things, if you will. Seen them drop 20s before. I think that's all they're missing at this point for the grand finals as far as accolades are concerned.
At this point, all they care about right now probably is just breaking records in FNCS finals history.
Yep.
They're on the cusp of it as well. Kelly called it out.
I just want to see
Only about 70 points left, and they could find themselves being able to break some nice all-time record for points. That 912 originally set by Zagu and Shalom over in the Asia region. But PETERBOT just needs one elimination to get 41 in total for his individual accord, and then he will break the record that Cold has held for most individual eliminations in an NA Duos FNCS finals, because Cold's signaling at 40. PETERBOT just needs one more. He might find it in Hakio or Mayfishy.
Yeah, at this pace right now, just pay attention, y'all. Let's see it. Boyo's got the side angle. PETERBOT continuing the pressure here. And unfortunately, for the team that they're fighting, they're in the zone. Like, they got a lot of time to keep working this battle here if they so choose to. Look at this. PETERBOT and Boyo very much aware of their surroundings and the fact that Rift Island's going to be opening up here. So they could just go and cap out material if they want to effectively play for positioning and endgame. And if they stick around, I think it'll just tell us they just want Elim. So
PETERBOT is this close, Monster. There's no way he lets Haki or Mayfishy go for free. They are currently trapped. PETERBOT and Boyo, if anything, they might just reposition, maybe look for an area. Rift Island, top of Rift Island might be easier for them still.
They're keying. Oh my
to
God.
find another one. And yeah, it's Mixon at the top of this Surge Tower, by the way. PETERBOT dashes up. Mixon has to forfeit his spot in that Surge Tower. PETERBOT still trying to barrel into their box. Paco, massive shot. Shield fully cracked. White health completely exposed. PETERBOT just needs one more good tag. But no, just like that, Mixon and Paco are just barely going to manage to escape, and PETERBOT's still searching for that record-breaking elimination.
It's crazy what they're capable of. You see the pace of which the pressure comes out of PETERBOT and Polio. Like, you just can't defend against it. You have to run.
I think the crazier part still, though, is that even if PETERBOT doesn't get that 41st elimination in this match, he still has 2 more lobbies, MDF, to try and break that record. He might
Not
just
wrong.
be setting one for the ages at this point.
You're not wrong. That is true. 3 games ahead to not only set the record, but then continue to lay the foundation for your own personal record and world's best, essentially. It is just a masterpiece to watch unfold, but we already know what's attributing to all their success, those medallions. Some of them swapping it out, too, in combat, giving them those refreshed 3 charges. So there's no escaping if they don't allow you to, essentially. They do determine the pace of everything. Kanata and Cooper on the other side, very far from all the chaos down south. Zone's going to be popping in here shortly after it starts to cut across. Meanwhile, we got Skills and Trashy. What happened here? Breaks the floor down.
Nefarious work. A little bit of fall damage. Production got jokes sometimes to the players as well. Best way to look at it, but hey, I like it from Skittles and Trashy, the idea here with the Surge Tower. They got that early elimination onto Baka over by the Ship It station, and they really haven't strayed too far from that rotate that they made earlier on, largely just because of the fact that they're clearly still inside of the zone in their current spot. So they're just trying to scout, see if there's anybody else that they could pick off in the process, maybe who's approaching from that further south, or even a little bit more west. Cold and Acorn, though, these two, they've definitely had their work cut out for them today, but they have been reaching the ceiling and then some. They do not want to let anyone else sit inside of that top 3. You can tell how badly they're trying to take over, even though they've already got their ticket to globals checked off after their major 1 win. They don't care. This is about pride at this point, NDF.
Yeah, it's just a matter of, a matter of sharpening the blade and staying sharp, right? So you start gearing up for the tail end of this FNCS. These are awesome tags, by the way, coming out of Cold, but still not enough to give him the freedom away from the damage that they need to pick up here. So what are they gonna do? Another one comes out there. Acorn punished with the trades there. We're seeing a trend out of Acorn, unfortunately not being able to land those big hits when they mattered. Saw it earlier today. We're seeing it now again. Losing some of these exchanges here. Look at the heals. These is going to be very critical heals. So with a team landing down low, they are forced to actually dive on this squad. No more staying at distance, right? Staying at bay. Acorn's hurt by the Storm Surge, but also just in general, taking a monster shot, landing in onto Larson. And yep, it is not looking too hot now. Acorn's going to fall first. All up to Cold here. He's above the Surge, but for how much longer? He actually bails out. Okay.
Flies up just to immediately dive bomb right back to the ground. Just recognizes the fact that he had to use every single one of those 4 splashes he had just to keep himself up and running. And sure, he might have survived that initial bit of Storm Surge, might have barely gotten just above the threshold point, but now he's left 0 shield Still trying to acquire a couple more tags. His best case scenario currently is going to be finding a surprise knock onto either a solo he can pick off or even a duo, because that could give him an opportunity to then try and key in, maybe win that exchange. We know how mechanically talented Cold is. PETERBOT and Pollo, though, they've got more than enough heals, though, to work through this, but they still got decently taxed, losing a good amount of their splashes.
Below the surge right now as well, so everyone's got to be careful. They will have to jump in on a team right now. They can't find a tag here shortly. Oh no, it's Epic Whale and Clicks who get chosen for the box fight.
Looked like PETERBOT for a second there. He's gonna go elsewhere, but missed the dash. Fell back down. Pollo knocked now. Mixin, Paco, they're paying PETERBOT and Pollo a visit. PETERBOT trying to do what he can to keep his duo alive, but even throwing Pollo around. There's so many teams now flooding into their current position, and PETERBOT's not gonna get the chance. Immediately taken out of this lobby. Paco, Mixin, Krizix, Yasir, just too much pressure smothering him.
Is that officially the worst placement they picked up, 30th, before placement points are given out? I think that might actually be the worst
for
game
this weekend, yeah. The first
Zero
time outside of the top 10.
Yep. 0 eliminations and a 30th place. So that's a full 0-point dud game right there.
And even crazier still, it has absolutely zero impact on their first place position in the leaderboards because of how excellently they've played this entire weekend.
Not unless Re and Ritual just go sicko mode and right, like a win right now, and all of a sudden, you know, it's a 100-point gap.
Yeah, they need like 30 eliminations, my guy, and then maybe 1 or 2 wins. Sure, I think, you know, there's always a chance if you really want to boil it all down, but Bryce and Bolts, they need a lifeline currently. 68 above the damage threshold, but struggling to make it into this next zone. So much congestion already building up on the south side, but they have scratched that. Bryce has managed to make it into zone, but now he's fallen one more time below that damage threshold. Tries to key into a box.
Whoa.
Success! Junior dropped in a heartbeat, but Hazent just barely manages to pull it together. But again, the damage already done. He's gonna have to operate as a solo now.
Not enough ammunition to close the deed. And that's tough for Bryce there, who was, again, fighting for the podium position there. He's managed to do so well, and now it's just gonna get that much more difficult. First place is out, 4th place is out. Acorn and Cole still in this, Threats and Sphinx still in this. Re and Ritual, Kanata, Cooper, all teams that we're expecting to have an opportunity here. Clicks and Epic Whale still standing as well. I see them there in the distance too. Miro and Dukes is alive here. A lot of notable players. Muzz standing as well. Let's jump in with 2nd place though. Take a look at this here. Re and Ritual cooking up in the mid ground. Oh my gosh, no, they're on the low ground. This is so congested actually, now that I'm looking at the standings for the map there. 43 players standing. This is about as packed as we've seen it, and it's at the Grim Gate, which is so interesting to see that the map is quite literally ending on PETERBOT and Pollo's draw spot, and they're not in this game. Like, this is their worst performing game, so just unprecedented game right here.
Man, players are just dropping like flies though. Cold still managing to keep the dream alive here for himself and Acorn, but he's posted up inside of a box currently. Definitely trying to stay out of sight, out of mind of the rest of the lobby. Look for some tags with the Waterbending Mythic where he can. Only kind of shield availability he has though is off of that Flowberry Fizz. Clicks, Epic build situation just as dire as ever for these two. They have really struggled all weekend with having a good materials count in the end game, but they've at least got a separate layer from the rest for the time being. They might be able to find a refresh, as they continue to tarp through with some of their final builds, but it's got to come fast. They need more resources. They don't have the luxury of waiting for much longer. They didn't have a good clear over that damage threshold, and it could pose a real threat to them if they're not careful.
Look at Clix and Epic Will fighting the mid-ground layer up against Kanata and Cooper. Seems like both of them had the same idea, like, I want to look for height. They look like they want to look for height. Well, only one of us can do it. Not only that, Clix is now officially out of material here as well, so this is all desperation starting to set in here. They're going to have to make their way best they can to this new zone, sitting underneath the base here. Who's this? Oh, it's Reed. He's right above him. No idea. They're right underneath him. Reed and Ritual go for high ground up against Paco and Mixon. They still have Underworld dashes left. Reed has 1-2, and they are successful in the high ground take.
5 eliminations as well on Reed. And they do have the aspect of agility to share between each other. Healthy amount of builds also.
Taco. Wait. We said there was a chance. We said there was a chance. I'm just, like, what are we watching play out right now?
PETERBOT and Pollo have got to dud the next 2 lobbies as well, though. If that chance is really going to circulate its way into the conversation. Clix is just lost. Epic Whale. Cooper also doesn't have Kanata next to him. Could have a pick here onto Raze. Instead, he's going to slip by. Cooper is still trying to break some boxes, break some metal walls here. Recognizing the fact that he's down to his last 2 bananas, so he can at least play from the backside of zone for a little bit. Has a little bit of more healing to work with, but that final banana having just been used. Zone pulled back, though.
He was really banking on it. He was really banking on the zone coming back. Finds an elimination there onto Raze as well. The quick pickup. He's got the material he was looking for. And the banana still ticking is going to heal him right back up. So Cooper's in this game. That's very, very clutch as far as the standings are concerned, because look at this. You have Skittles and Trashy stepping on his heels right now, closing in on the points threshold. There's a lot of new teams inside the top 10 right now. Finally, Clix falls as well there as the feed starts to update. Ree is still alive. He finds Cooper, though. Iamzo and Rise cooking in the mid-ground and the low-ground position right now. They have 7 elims, Taco. They are turning online all of a sudden, too.
But I'm just looking at that team on high. Reet and Ritual are just dominating this current lobby. They are not allowing anyone to feel comfortable navigating these mid to low ground layers. More pressure just being applied, being suppressed.
And they now get
SMG
placement.
just posing so many problems. Rise Iamzo, they're forced to just keep trying to move forward. It's Chimp they run into next, but no, behind them. Check it out, it's Reet still claiming even more points off these eliminations.
You got Trashy just sitting back like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to just use my med kits, take this top 5, and any other placement points I can squeeze out of this game right now, and things start to slow down. He's got the Underworld dashes, so he shouldn't have too much of a problem getting to the safe zone. But that is the story of NA right now, as Reet is still going from his prime position. He has 9 elims right now, leading the charge. But don't get too ahead of yourself. That 2v1 right there could be disastrous for him. He does hit that shot, though, and little does he know, there's a player right in between them. It's Chimp, it's Scissors. They're both still standing, by the way, so anything can happen, and just like that, down goes Reet. But a win condition sitting before Ritual. Up top, Cam is going for it. Instead, he slams down. This actually might be the win opportunity for Ritual, because Cam went for the low ground teams instead.
Why?
And they get granted
about
the
extra
W.
competition.
Nah,
Holy shit.
and Ritual right now are just applauding watching that finalization here to lobby 10. A victory royale, though, that they've earned. Monster, you brought it up. There is a chance. It's not a big one, but there is now a very slim opportunity here. If Reet and Ritual can maintain this kind of pacing, they might actually just catch up to PETERBOT and Pollo. But again, it also depends on whether or not PETERBOT and Pollo find themselves falling outside of that top 25.
You know, I just found it very interesting. A very compelling story right now for Reet and Ritual as they, you know, really surge their way into the 700-point threshold. Right here, though, I thought Cam was going to charge after Ritual, but instead he goes to the low ground, and Ritual and Reet couldn't have asked for a better ending there. Plus 20 points from second place to get in that first place. A huge difference there. Puts them in the running now, in the contested, in the conversation for or after Game 10's win there, Taco. Just incredible.
They also had a pretty ample amount of eliminations, but yeah, things are definitely starting to heat up here, MDF, but gotta give it back to Zeke, Vivid, and Kelly to see what they have to say.
Sometimes, you know, things go well. Sometimes they go a little bad. You lose your duel mate. Sometimes the Wings of Icarus just have one dive down move, which means you're good. You run into the storm with the banana. You walk away with the win. Reet and Ritual coming up huge here in game number 10. They are fighting for one of those top 3 spots. And man, oh man, now with 723 points, these guys have really pulled out all of the stops.
We have played 10 games in grand finals, and only 4 teams have gotten a victory royale. One of those is Blake and Mac with one of them. Kanata and Cooper have 2 of them. Ritual and Reet have 3 now. And then PETERBOT and Pollo have the other 4. And Kelly, listen, I know Taco just mentioned it. Everybody's going to be like, Vivid, come on, guys. Like, obviously, PETERBOT. But Ritual and Reet are kind of putting themselves in a position to where it's possible to catch up.
Especially if PETERBOT and Pollo go down in 30th again.
Oh my.
To none other than the likes of Paco and Mixon. So, you know, EU on top, I don't know. But regardless, Reet and Ritual were definitely on top, holding high ground there for such a long time. And I don't know how much of that victory royale was luck or circumstance, but Ritual going for the heal off exactly what we needed. And that might actually be the first heal off win we've seen of the weekend for NA.
It's been a crazy one, to say the least. It's been action nonstop. And for them, I cannot believe Reet and Ritual got themselves that win. I want to take a look at the standing. There's only 2 more games left to go here on the day. And with this win right here, take a look. They are holding down that 2nd place spot. Not far away, but still pretty far away is Kanata and Cooper as well. The top 3 have not moved, guys. They have been just stalwart here in these games. Man, so huge shout out once again, Reet and Ritual for the big victory royale. Take a look there though, Skittles and Trashy there in 4th place, moving up 3 places. I'm telling you, this is going to come down to the wire. Everyone is fighting for those seats on the battle bus, the global championships.
Yeah, and a team that's got to continue, got to stay in the fight here. Even though they came in today with a solid, you know, comfortable 2nd place, Kanata and Cooper is sitting in 3rd. They've established a 120-point lead. But Kelly, what's looking good for this duo right now, right? We mentioned it, the first 2 games, not so good. But the last 2, it seems like they figured it out, and they keep making the end games.
Yeah, whatever they have done, whatever they have changed in the last few games is definitely working out for them. And with this kind of rolling in this direction, there is a chance for them to grab a victory royale and even solidify their spot in the top 3 even more so. And you know that's exactly what Kanata and Cooper want. How could we have Kanata and Cooper not make it to the global championships? And I just, this duo is so exciting for me to watch. Such a smart duo as well, and currently sitting in 3rd place. However, Skittles and Trashy potentially within range. We do still have 2 more games to go here, but I do want to talk more about Ritual and Reet. What a surprise. They're 120 points behind PETERBOT and Pollo, but they just got themselves close to 150 points last game. So if they go down again in 30th place, which we now know is possible, there is definitely a chance that they could actually take 1st place.
You know, I don't know if you know this, but the season theme is myths and mortals, and this game just proves that gods can bleed, because PETERBOT and Pollo fell in 30th place. So, you know, Kelly, you're not wrong, right? It just takes a single slip up, right? That we cannot stress this enough. The 1.5 times multiplier is such a difference maker here. And with 2 games left to go, this could possibly be stolen away. But for PETERBOT and Pollo, they just need to hold on, right? They just need to make it into the top 25, try and rack up as many points as they possibly can. But I am looking at Cooper and Kanata, right? Because I think they very well could fight for a 2nd right now.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot going on in the top 3. A lot I think Game 11 is setting up to be the most exciting game because if this goes a certain which way, Game 12 is going to be crazy.
This is what we expect out of NA. I know a lot of people are like, the story's already written, the writing's on the wall. But no, leave it to NA to keep you on your toes till the very final moments.
Man, I'm ready. The stress through the roof right now. 2 games left to go. We're going to know who wins an Axe of Champions, prize money, and the top 3 will move on to the Global Championships later on this year. For Game 11, we're tossing it over to Monster D-Face and the best Taco.
This is it. Game 11 right now is really going to set the tone for the remainder of the FNCS. And, you know, PETERBOT and Boyo absolutely deserve to be the global, the FNCS champions right now. However, anything can happen, Taco. I mean, that seems to be certain.
Hey, you can play perfectly throughout the course of a weekend, but if you're not able to seal the deal, well, a team like Reet and Ritual, I can already picture them rubbing their hands together, inching ever steadily closer to that first place position. We joked about it. We talked about, hey, PETERBOT, he's looking to break some records. He's trying to get that 41 individual eliminations title. No, it's got to be less about the records, more about the wins, locking down their spot. And with Game 11 on the edge here, we're ready to see what happens next.
Here we have it, Grand Finals, game number 11, the most important game for Reet and Ritual right now, but also for PETERBOT and Boyo if they want to be today's champions, if they want to lift that Axe of Champion to be granted with all that cash money, they cannot afford to drop the ball. We saw what happens when they, I don't know if they were trolling a little bit, easing up a bit and pushing teams over confidently. This 1.5x multiplier, if nothing else, has proven that anything can happen if you fail to perform.
This is a really late glide in here from Cold. He's going to be forced to go way south. Fencing fields a little bit separated from Acorn, but doesn't seem to be impacting him too heavily. Just more so surprised at how long it took him to actually touch down, but hasn't seemed to thwart his early game so far. Ample amount of shield. And yeah, that 1.5 times multiplier could be the real difference maker. Macwood Blake, though, striking back, reclaiming the Grand Glacier for themselves. And you know what that means, MDF? Every single time they have won this off-spawn battle, we've been able to pay a visit to Blake and Macwood in the endgame, and that's exactly their intention here in Game 11.
Yeah, they got a lot to live up to right now, being that they have played so exceptionally well when they've made it off the drop, especially when they finish the battle this fast. Look at that. Blake touches down, beats the drop, just wonderfully executed there. Meanwhile, while all that was happening, I did see Bugha and Agers fall. We're seeing the update right now with PETERBOT and Boyo. Everyone's wondering who's going to land on them in Game 12, who's going to land on them in Game 11. No one so far. No one has dared to challenge them, regardless of what it could mean for the NA conversation. There is a team, however, moving in dangerously fast right now on the outskirts. Who is this?
Well, not only that, but for the first time today, I believe, PETERBOT and Boyo, this is actually one of the fastest times that we've seen them go to try and beat Cerberus, claim that aspect of agility. Have to think, maybe it's a slight switch up from how they've been playing today, because we've typically been seeing them extend just a little bit on playing the outskirts of Grim Gates, trying to pose a threat, trying to eliminate teams who are just kind of hovering their POI, and then they come back to claim that aspect of agility. But this time they're wasting no time, and it could potentially be because of the fact that that's a little bit of a jump scare, I'd imagine. When you fall outside of placement point range, you're not in that top 25, you're earning nada for an entire lobby. Meanwhile, you're watching Reet and Ritual just basking in all of the glory. Massive 150 plus point games in their favor that have now caused them to be able to potentially threaten PETERBOT and Boyo's position.
Yeah, I just keep going back to that yesterday's Game 1 where PETERBOT had to clutch up and pull out that stretch for 20 points in the top 3. And to think that that could be the difference maker. Meanwhile, what was this trade of offense? Everyone there takes the L. and they'll have to sit this game out, wait for game 11, and then Reet and Ritual, man. Pressure is on. You know, just as hard as it is for others to perform and hold your first place spot, it is equally as difficult when you see the light at the end of the tunnel. You see that there's a chance that you could be that FNCS champion. You know, this is one accolade that Reet wants to continue to chase after, right? And especially Ritual, who Ritual has seen his fair successes of what it feels like to be a winner of sorts in a tournament setting. However, there's nothing like an FNCS championship.
Yeah, and that 18 FNCS finals Victory Royales that Reet's been able to claim, that's impressive, because now he's in second place for the most of any active North American player. The only one that he's behind is Epic Whale, Mr. 6 times himself. So definitely an impressive accolade for Reet to kind of just tag on to the resume. Certainly been building up quite a monumental statue for himself here for other players to try and tackle and overcome. I like this right now, though, from Skittles and Trashy. Kind of trying to just get a good head view of the entire lobby. They're hovering around this forecast tower as well. Check who's coming up in the distance, PETERBOT, Pollo. But again, Skittles and Trashy, they have definitely been a team that has been able to kind of hold PETERBOT and Pollo at bay. They are no rollover duo by any means, and if PETERBOT and Pollo try to go for an exchange with them, it could end up in disastrous results if they're not careful.
I'm really just trying to see, engage, where do we think PETERBOT's and Pollo's mentality is at right now? Are they feeling nervous? Do they still feel confident like they have this locked in the bag? Because that right there, you know, that little voice that is speaking to them deep down inside is going to determine whether or not they can actually perform this game 11.
I saw Skittles and Trashy, though, just a little bit further up. It's because they wanted to make that rotate one more time to Pars and Baka's location at the Ship It station, just threatening them. Bryson Bolts, though, really good looks for them south of Reckless Railways. They're going to be able to claim Forecast Tower that spawns just a little bit north from their drop at Dumpenhausen. And now, with the Forecast key card and the knowledge of all future zones coming into play, Bryson Bolts, they've got some good ground to make up for, considering they got a taste of that top 3 in the leaderboard earlier today, MDF, but they've got to fight their way back into it now.
Yeah, this could surely be their game. And look at this. Acorn and Cold making it successfully past the early game here of the fencing fields. A triple contested drop. That's an accolade in its own. It's a huge hurdle to overcome here.
Ooh.
If it's a Cold to find the tags, that's for sure.
Might be Muzz and Paper or Yasir and Krizix that he is shooting at across the way here. It's just wild to think, though, these teams, because of how heavily contested fencing fields is, they've all got to be fighting for like 3 or 4 chests each, right? Like, there is no way that there's that much resources to go around for everyone at this POI. It's definitely had a little bit of a negative impact against the likes of Muzz and Paper's overall performance, because they are a pretty strong duo for what it's worth, and to see them kind of struggling throughout the course of this weekend because of what they've been up against just goes to show that even some of NA's best can come to a halt depending on the situation that they're left with.
This is very interesting. I feel like Trashy and Skittles lost their one chance to drop Boya while he was out positioned with all those metal walls between him and PETERBOT, and PETERBOT doesn't like the odds here. PETERBOT feeling like he needs to back off, and he leaves Boyo by himself. This is just the confidence. The confidence is crazy. Well, I asked a question of whether or not they were feeling like the nerves were settling in, but no. They're showing me that PETERBOT's like, nah, you got it, brother. I got this. Let me go look for someone else, find some tags while you keep these kids busy. That's all we need to know. All right, well.
Sometimes fear can be a good thing, though, because if you're just not scared of anything, that overconfidence is typically what's going to result in you getting eliminated pre-top 25 in a lobby, and can't bring it up enough. They really cannot afford to take an early spill in match 11, because if they do, the moment that their names, if even one of them gets read across in that elimination feed, it's got to put the Jets on for Reet and Ritual. But things are a little bit sticky here for Reet and Ritual as is. All the way north of the map, Classy Courts, where they find themselves. And there's two other teams in their direct vicinity. Make that 3, Sigma trying to poke his head into the fray. As Dukes, Miro, they look like they want to depart from this engagement. They don't really like the amount of foot traffic that's found its way to their drop. But it's Reet and Ritual.
King.
Yeah.
This is crazy. I didn't expect them to want to push it this aggressively when they're in second place right now, but it's showing us that they don't want to have to worry about Surge later in the game, and they're looking at likely the same thing we are. It's a team playing way too passively, so I'm assuming this is giving Reet all the confidence here to feel like, hey, this team might not be on our level. However, it is Dukes, it is Miro, so anything can happen. Dukes is going to be punished, though. Backs against the wall. It's still a 2v1 face check. Here comes Ritual to back him up. So far, so good, but they're missing the tags, and Miro is accurate as ever, putting up a good defensive hold here so far.
Miro just saved Dukes' life, hard body in that circumstance. Reet and Ritual were fooled on trying to aggress. They just couldn't break past that final boss that Miro was able to present, but it could only be a momentary relief here as Reet, Ritual, they recognize this is still a little bit of a tough situation. They're going for the floors, though. I like that from Reet. Just trying to keep Miro and Dukes on their toes, but now a Minish Cam, they've worked their way over. They heard the shots being fired. Reet gonna have to box fight one more time, but he needs backup. Ritual's got no shields. He's on his own for right now.
Very well played by Reet, keeping the pressure on here, doubling back to his teammate here, making sure not to leave Ritual behind and get too greedy chasing the elimination here. While Ritual pauses to heal, you can see that they found a lot of damage. They may not have the eliminations, but they surely have gotten a lot of damage traded off to the opponents, and they didn't take a lot of damage in the process. So all they have to do now is replenish material, and they'll have a real good fighting chance against the Storm Surge later into the rounds here. There goes the material split to make sure they're absolutely set up, but gotta be careful. The ambush from Duke and Miro's here on the outskirts of this base right now. And everyone splits off, so for Reet and Ritual, they will live to see another day. While that was happening, by the way, Boyo found an elimination. I saw that start to add up, and then you see Bryson Bolts here as well, finding their positioning on the high ground. And what a fun stat. Every game this weekend has been won by a team with a former FNCS champion, just really flexing the fact that the OGs are out, man, and they're not going to drop a game. All right, everyone's going to have their chance at bat, if you will.
That veteran experience is definitely playing a very heavy factor into this weekend's performances for all of our Victor Royale teams, but PETERBOT and his Surge base, look at Xavi and Neko as well. Quite a few Surge towers kind of littered around this Grim Gate location, extending all the way towards where the Rift Island has just spawned in. PETERBOT catching a glimpse now, Waterbending Mythic headed his way, but the Flowberry Fizz that was being utilized, PETERBOT maybe scouting out the fact this is a team that's potentially low, but they're going to be the first ones to make it onto Rift Island nonetheless. And PETERBOT has not been able to connect a single shot with that thermal scope on the Hunter's DMR. Look at Bacon and TK, though, taking the Rift here. They're also trying to seek out what Rift Island has to offer. It's Acorn and Cold going for the capture point. They've boxed out a decent amount of space here. It all depends on what TK and Bacon are really after. Is it Surge that they need? Is it materials? Regardless of the circumstance, they might just find themselves in a precarious position here, dealing with the likes of Cold and Acorn.
Still, though, they do manage to secure it here. TK and Bacon sitting up around this base here. PETERBOT and Pollo, obviously there in the distance. You have Krizix and Yasir, Tyler and Curve, Skittles and Trashy, who obviously Skittles and Trashy really have remained very much relevant as far as our top 10 standings concerned. And with how many points they have, they could be in contention for top 3 in a ride straight to the Global Championships in September. There's the update. 4th place.
Yeah. Just quietly playing their own game, though. They're the only team that has actually placed top 25 in every single lobby so far this Grand Finals weekend. That metric alone, pretty substantial, all things considered. It's just that one massive standout performance that they've kind of been seeking out.
Just can't count out PETERBOT, though. Even if he falls, he gets right back up and right back into things. And they take down Frost here. And this is on the outskirts, someone who likely just picked up whatever was inside that bunker. So
That's
a little
record,
loot
though.
delivery for the boys here.
Yeah, 41 though for PETERBOT with that singular elimination. Couldn't get it in the last lobby, but he has now officially set the record for NA in terms of individual eliminations in the Grand Finals performance weekend. So congrats, PETERBOT, but now the next mission, the next objective, secure 1st place, because Reet and Ritual, they're still looking to make it happen if they can.
Just got the eerie silence here settling in for Baka and Pars right now. As get the world of duos that separate them from the line of safety here. Things are going to get very difficult as far as rotating past the Rift Island is concerned. On the other side, Kanata and Cooper deep inside the Grim Gate here. Looking around, scouting for opportunity, no players nearby. Curiously checking out what loot is available here, and then PETERBOT and Pollo exposed up above. This is the face-off we didn't know we needed. Kanata and Cooper against PETERBOT and Pollo potentially to break out here, because we know PETERBOT and Pollo they'll just dash across. You know what I'm saying? They'll just land on you, and then all of a sudden you gotta deal with that.
Muzz and Paper, though, under so much pressure right now from Kanata and Cooper. Likely have some teams. I like that split angle, the line of sight that Cooper has opened up for himself, extending a little bit further away from where Kanata was at. But Ritual, they're not done.
Ooh.
They finally found that knock onto Miro. We saw Miro and
Have
Dukes
you been
earlier on
fighting
from
this
Classic
entire
Courts. They were
time?
taking more of the dead side approach after having gotten pushed back by Reet and Ritual's initial aggression. So the fact that Reet and Ritual have actually sniffed them out, chased them down, and now gonna work their way back towards the zone.
No.
But no! Reet! He just gets shot
Orson.
from the moment he tried to make it into the safety
He has
zone.
the bandages.
Tragic situation now for Ritual.
I mean, the problem here is that Dukes is also pushing in, and then Ritual caught off guard there. Instead of just waiting a little bit longer or positioning up somewhere else, but he saw Larson coming down the hill with Oliver OG, and Reet had to call it out. Man, that's a tough one right there. Well, the hopes and aspirations we had for that 2nd place comeback to arguably give PETERBOT and Pollo a run for their money has now been X'd out.
But hey, Kanata and Cooper, the situation that we just saw them in, they looked like they were set up for an incredibly strong mid-game. And they're also, I think, within that distance, maybe overtaking 2nd place. Cold, as accurate as ever, waterbending Mythic. No team going to be allowed to stay positioned on the bridge. Cold just doing everything in his power to shut it down, and Yasir, of all people that could possibly get picked off, because this is the never-ending battle that Acorn and Cole dealt with all of day 1 Grand Finals. And now, able to just administer the final blow to Yasir here in day 2, match 11. You know that Cole's probably pretty happy with that one, shutting down Yasir.
Good position for Bryson Bolts to be in. A lot of opportunities to tag up duos here, especially his freshly built builds from a team coming out the zone right now. You can see they're trying to do just that. Bach and Parse jump in there. That's a sign of desperation if I've ever seen one. Down body right there. Can he find it? Nope. Someone else does. It's Kanata and Cooper down low, who also put some additional pressures in on the duos there. Take a look at things from his perspective here. Game 11 getting more and more interesting now as Rhea and Richo have been taken out. Take a look here. Kanata had that side angle. Slipping tags right through the builds.
That's a really nice tag team effort as well, though. You've got Cooper breaking the walls. Kanata with that DMR. He knew his sole mission while Cooper took out the walls for him was just to land those shots, and he does exactly that. Love to see that synergy come together for the Dignitas duo of Kanata and Cooper, but they still got a little bit more teams to work through if they want to find themselves really being able to threaten that second place position. Their biggest upgrade potentially being the fact that Re and Ritual were eliminated outside of the top 25. So now it is entirely down to just how many placement points they can secure. Batman Booga with the waterbending method, just trying to connect any form of shots. He's falling well below that damage threshold. Things are only going to get worse for him. As a solo as is, he could be a nice little loot llama if a team's able to pick him off. Saw those 2 stacked Flowberry Fizzes that he had, as well as the Siphon Mats that he could provide. So Batman Booga's got to keep his wits about him, or also find himself getting eliminated pretty quickly here. Bryce Bolts. DMR is active, but Bryce still hasn't found an opportunity to connect. TK and Bacon, though, these poor guys are just getting suffocated right now by pressure from the lobby. Bryce needs these shots, though, or else he's going to have to burn through all of his shield.
Like that, we're seeing the activity. They're trying, but only time will tell if they're going to be able to be successful here. Trashy and Skittles, the opposite side here. They have a long way to make this rotate here. 22 duos in the game, 40 players remaining. Big moving zones are out. Who's got the most dominant spot on the map? Doesn't seem like anything's quite solidified yet. Outside of Decay having that high ground, but he's pretty lit up, all things considering. PETERBOT and Pollo get to the front side of zone right now. Placement points are being given out. This is where they get to run away with it, but shots coming in from all angles here. Just going to slow them down a little bit from getting too situated. Often they'll use up one of their Flowberry Fizzes, heal off and cap off the team there.
It's also a tough zone pull in the first place. Saw Cease and Jack rotating more towards that west side of the current zone. So with that next zone pool, they're going to have to now push their way through the congestion that's starting to build in the backside of zone. Batman Booga just barely managing to squeeze into that 6 above damage threshold. But with only 12 builds remaining, getting lit up the moment that he tries to press forward.
You saw the edit come out. Batman Booga was quick to disengage out of that position there, but yeah, Pump is just a little smarter. N-Pen finding the angles there. There's only also many places you could go. Respect the efforts.
Siphon Coin dropped, though. That's a big pickup for the team that was able to claim it. Could potentially make breaking through these low ground layers all the easier if you're able to depend on that Hades coin, get that Siphon working for yourself. But Golden Acorn from the low ground. Trashy Skittles, big pickups onto Sigma and Decay, who've also been a relatively impressive duo all weekend. But Trashy and Skittles, they're trying to find their monumental game. Like we already called out, they've maintained top 25 throughout the entirety of this weekend so far, but they're going to need more than just top 25. They're going to need top 5, if not a win, to really try and pose a threat to the top 3 in the leaderboard.
Trashing the schedule's coming out the edge of the storm here. Looking up for high ground. This could give everyone else the opportunity they're looking for. And that everyone else I'm talking about is PETERBOT and Polio. They were right there, second height, waiting to pounce. And you can see it works out as PETERBOT secures the loop, but someone lands on top of him. And down goes PETERBOT. Polio now left to fend for high ground by himself. There's a lot of solos here. No one's looking up to challenge Polio just yet. And the longer this game goes on, the more they get to break away with the points threshold to close out this grand finals games here. But Bryson Bolt still on the run right now. This is a good medkit play here to try to squeeze out placement points here. They are neck and neck tied with Acorn and Cold essentially as far as points are concerned. And Polio from high ground gives it up to jump down and go for what was likely PETERBOT's loot here or someone else's, but he recognized there was heals and something to play for.
Well, we saw Polio on the high ground. He only had like 6 or so builds left over. It's probably a big part of the reason why we saw PETERBOT, who had split apart from the high ground, to drop for low, try and grab that refresh. Chubbs and Aviv just punishing him for it immediately. But Polio, we saw the clutch in day 1. Can he have a repeat in day 2? Big tags onto Edgy from behind. Never saw it coming. The Underworld dashes, just making Polio so silent but easy to execute on these eliminations, on these knocks, potentially. Polio, though, maybe I spoke a little bit too soon here.
Too soon.
He gets snuffed out of the lobby entirely, doesn't get a chance to bring this one back.
Look who's in the top 5. Make it Blake and Macwood, another top 5. You know, if they could just get off the drop, they have been one of the most impressive duos we've seen this weekend. Meanwhile, Oliver OG Larson, the Upsetters, the team that effectively took down Reet and Ritual, making the best out of this game with a 3rd place performance so far and still fighting for more now. Aviv and Chubbs, though, have the high ground here, looking for 2 angles. They're the healthiest in the lobby right now. This should be their game to win, Taco.
They already put themselves in a great position. Aviv gonna drop momentarily off that last elimination. Onto Braids, finds another one immediately. The Mythic Gatekeeper just popping off here big time. And Aviv and Chubbs, they find their victory royale, and it couldn't have come at a better time because we only have 1 game left now, MDF, for so many of these players that are looking to try and catapult themselves into that top 3 of the leaderboard. This is where it can really begin.
A ride to the global championship is really being fought for right now. If you're at any of those teams inside of the top 10 right now, we're seeing all types of opportunities develop here, especially even for the likes of Aviv and Chubbs, who have the high ground. Look at how they ran away with things here, picking up elimination after elimination. In the end, sweep up all of the ones that were available, which is really reflecting nicely on the leaderboards there for them. Look at the standings. Their points just jump up big time for them. And all of a sudden now they have a fighting chance for global championships. And more importantly, just money, right? Prizing is, of course, available here as well. And they've earned their fair share so far.
Yeah, and I think it all really kicked off with that initial elimination onto PETERBOT. But there's plenty to break down in Game 11. So Zeke, Vivid, and Kelly, you guys know what to do.
Guys, thank you so much for that game. Only a single game left to go here from the Major 2 Grand Finals in North America, and Chubbs and Aviv. I cannot believe it. 10 eliminations, the victory royale. This is the spark they needed, right? Suddenly, they're in contention. They're going to rise up the standings and look to compete for, as Monster said, more prize money, possibly even a top 3, depending on how this last game goes. But for them, this is exactly what you want to see, because again, even if they don't make the global championships, right, guys, we're still playing for life-changing amount of money here.
Yeah, and looking at the standings, right, the leaderboard, they were going into that game outside of top 20, and they had 285 points. And as you can see right there, before they pick up the last couple of eliminations and actually win the game, just north of 400 points. So their jump on the leaderboard is going to be massive.
I love to see it. And like you guys have already spoke, this is no longer, you know, they're going to try and fight for 3rd or 1st. Instead, this is them just trying to go up the leaderboard, trying to get as much money as they can. Because at the end of the day, a lot of these competitors are here to win big. And I think that's what we're seeing from Aviv and Chubbs.
Absolutely, guys. In that game, you know what kind of scared me? Reach and Ritual. These guys falling early could make this last game quite a bit of a nail biter. A little bit unexpected from the duo.
Yeah, definitely. You know, getting caught out in one of those awkward rotations, ended up fighting Miro and Dukes for quite some time. I mean, we saw this fight kind of going on actually earlier than this fight, and they kind of just rejoined, had that 2v2 going once again. And yeah, you know, Reed and Ritual were alive right here, but there's a couple teams on the edge of zone that are aware of this rotate being made, and yeah, just getting tagged up along that rotate, meeting their demise. Tough game for them, but Kelly, I'm pretty sure they'll still be in second.
Yeah, they are currently still sitting in second right now, but you do have to feel for them. And just by making so much noise and entering those engagements, even if you are still in Storm, that doesn't mean that other duos aren't near you, can't see you. So you do have to be a little bit careful. They kind of are running a little freely there, but still, Reed and Ritual are having such a good day today, regardless of going down early in that game. So I'm just so proud of them.
Absolutely. Okay. Single game left to go here. Let's take a look at the standings. After game 11 here in North America, we have just set a brand new record in points. Congratulations to PETERBOT and Pollo. Not only have they broken the old point threshold, which was 912 points by Zagu and Shalom in Asia in Major number 1, but they are, without a doubt, your FNCS Major 2 champions. This last game for them is just a victory lap, right? That is such a massive threshold. Unless Reed and Ritual got a victory royale and, I don't know, eliminate the entire lobby, and PETERBOT and Pollo just didn't load into the game, I don't know that anyone could even stand a chance to catch up at this point. So I want to start framing this situation now toward that top 3, right? As we start to look down from second place and downward, obviously Skittles and Trashy 554 points, to Kanata and Cooper 635. Again, this being the last game, Vivid, you know, if a single duo in this top 5 makes a mistake, they go down early, they even lose and gonna have to play as a solo, it could spell disaster.
Yeah, 100% right. Kanata and Cooper cannot slack off right now. And honestly, listen, they have a pretty good shot to even fight for second place, in my opinion, right? If Reet and Ritual kind of go down early, like we just saw them right there, we know Kanata and Cooper are definitely capable of pulling out a pop-off game. They've shown already that they can kind of win some of these games. So, yeah, the top 3 definitely not solidified whatsoever, which makes it pretty scary for these teams.
But it's not just can a team do well, it's also can these top teams not do well when it comes down to getting into the top 3. But with it being around 80 points that separates fourth from third place, that's not even a victory royale. But I know our casters were talking about Aviv and Chubbs having the potential to get into that third place spot, but they are 190 points below third place. And that would be a victory royale with, what, 15, 16 eliminations? That is a tall order from the likes of the players that are in 8th place right now. But definitely within contention, even Acorn and Cold, could you imagine having them from such a poor performance in day 1, jumping all the way up into 3rd place, grabbing their 2nd spot into the Global Championships technically?
Just double qualify, you know, Major 1 and Major 3. They might as well, you know, do the same thing, just triple qualify, just to make sure everyone knows, hey, we're the ones going to the Global Championships. But it's kind of to your point of even Chubbs moving up 12 places there in that last game. Again, they're fighting for a life-changing amount of money here. If they could make another leap, right, that could mean so much money going toward the duo. So here in a single game left to go, guys, expectations, because again, reminder, 1.5 times multiplier on points, and some of these duos with a single game could change everything.
I'm kind of torn between wanting PETERBOT and Pollo to kind of go out there and just like push everybody and try to drop like a 20 elimination victory lap game. And I also kind of want to see them just play for end games so that we actually see that 1,000 points kind of pop up, right? It was 4 digits. It'd be kind of cool to see. Either way, I'm sure we'll see an exciting game 12.
Took the words out of my mouth. I want to see PETERBOT and Pollo get those 1,000 points. I think at this point you have to, right? But I'd be excited to see some changes and drops. It's the final game. There's probably a few duos in the bottom 10 that are saying, why not? This is it. This is the opportunity. Now, are they going to land on Grim Gate and PETERBOT and Pollo? That's a bigger question that we'll find out very soon.
You'll love to see it. We'll find out right here, right now. Game number 12, the FNCS Grand Finals in North America. Fortnite fam, cheer on these duos. Every interaction matters because this is the last game of the day. One last ride. MDF, the best taco. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Zeke. And yes, as we start getting into this Game 12, I think it's important to note that we're the real winners here, all of us, the community, because at the end of the day, we have such notable teams going to the Global Champions, point blank period, whether it's PETERBOT and Polio, whether it's Re and Ritual, or Kanata and Cooper, right? These are animals that are going to be competing in person here soon, Taco, right? So, you know, it's all just fun.
Yeah, I'm really excited just looking at our top end of the leaderboard, knowing full well what is on the line is that global championship spot. And with Game 12, our final match of the day to conclude the Grand Finals weekend starts now.
I'm fine with them winning. I only see it at
The Grand Finals, Game 12, the last round of the FNCS Grand Finals is kicking off here and now. And like we just mentioned, it is nothing but celebration as we've been rewarded with such fun games getting into this here, continuing to load in. We have, of course, all 50 duos touching down in the world here. And like I said, I couldn't be more excited to see what and how this is all going to play out. For starters, though, we have the Booga and Agers versus Zeus and Pikes to give us a little bit of a treat, a battle here. It's been ending so fast. I think we see why. It's almost like a 50-50 contest. Landing for the weapons, and they've been pushing one another exceptionally quickly.
Hey, no guts, no glory after all. Booga knocked one more time. Agers now Game 12 entirely on his shoulders. He does have a Gatekeeper shotgun, but as a solo here, 2 versus 1, Zeus and Pikes, they want to stamp their mark here in Game 12. They want to take down Booga and Agers yet again, likely trying to hit the emo victory dance on them as well. Standings aside, this is all just pride on the line here between these two teams. And Zeus and Pikes, what looked like they were willing to exchange blows initially, maybe scouted out the fact that Agers might have had a slight shield advantage, so they're going to elect to fall back. They let Agers escape for the time being. That could end up being disastrous for them.
Macwood's down. Skull picks up Thoric here, and Blake, he's got a little extra shield to work with, so he's not looking to back off just yet, but has to be careful. 2 shot angles come in from down low, and the knowledge trying to kick in. The awareness to start playing for these super cheeky side angles, and all of a sudden he finds Skull trying to exit out the backside of the area here. Look, they're just looking to actually disengage. Blake earning the respect of the drop. Might as well get your teammate's card and move on yourself, as we've seen what Blake and Macwood are capable of. They've had such great performances when they survived the drop. This, I would say this is about as close as we've seen the battles. Normally it's just one or the other way. However, this one looks suspenseful for Blake and Macwood.
The record overall, though, with the conclusions of the early contest here at Grand Glacier, it has just been so evenly split between these two duos. It's like if Blake and Macwood claim one off-round win, the very next lobby, you've got Skull and Thoric striking back. Unfortunately, though, for both of these teams, it has left them in a relatively rough spot as far as the leaderboard is concerned. And we won't see the conclusion just yet, thanks to that porta-potty escape. But Skull and Thoric, they can't feel too safe over at Grand Glacier. Saw another team closing in on the distance, but back over at Grimgate. Crunch some numbers while we were waiting for this lobby to begin, MDF. 203 points separating first and second place. If PETERBOT and Polio don't get a single elimination and are dropped outside of top 25 to get 0 placement points, all Re and Rich will have to do is win this final lobby and get 18 eliminations, and they are so back for first place on the leaderboard.
So back, yeah. That's a crazy thing to ask after they've already won a game today. It really makes you wonder what we would be looking at if Re and Ritual just didn't fight. Honestly, didn't fight Miro and Dukes. Like, that's a crazy team to fight. Obviously, you don't know who you're fighting on the outskirts of the maps, and we said it. It can go either which way. And they didn't even lose the battle. That's the other crazy part. They didn't even lose the battle. It was just a storm, right? Like, they were doing it in a storm. They were worse for wears on the rotate, and they got caught out. So, is what it is. Not and Cooper getting active right now. Saw, obviously, Cold putting in work at the draw spot. You're seeing Krizik falling. Was in paper as well.
I was about to start going in pace with the shots. But, yeah, it's definitely interesting that Kanata and Cooper, they have worked so quickly out of their drop at Kieran's Crossing. Try and pay a visit to some of these teams at the Underworld. It's an okay loadout, though, to start some fights, start some early game engagements. It's definitely in the back of Kanata and Cooper's minds that they also want to cement their spot in that top 3 leaderboard, or even better still, have a monumental Game 12 and overtake second place.
Pars and Baka here. Baka with the big base. Pars on the warehouse. Popping tags at PETERBOT and Boyo way off in the distance, who are looking to push a team as well. Seems like they double back. They're like, okay, wait a second. These teams seem way far. Not worth expending our materials to close this gap. Let's find a more unsuspecting team. And this is the first season Jack.
This is not ideal, though, for Cease and Jack. Jack trying to do what he can to defend Cease inside of this box, but when you got PETERBOT and Pollo just nailing down on you from 2 separate angles, it does mean, though, if PETERBOT and Pollo aren't careful, they could potentially find themselves getting knocked. And sure enough, some shots coming from behind. That's a good push back, though.
No, it was Jack dashing in the box and actually tagging Peter from behind. That was very quickly, and honestly, it's like PETERBOT had a little taste of his own medicine. That is how he normally bodies other players. Just don't expect it.
Cease, though, he's got to make sure that he holds floor above him. PETERBOT claiming it. PETERBOT slamming Cease. Just zero opportunity for any sort of a comeback. That's going to be the end of the line here for Cease currently, and it could spell disastrous for Jack. Restored Reels has just become such a big focal point in match 12 here for PETERBOT and Pollo, and Jack trying to escape. A sniper shot not going to connect from PETERBOT, and it's not like they even necessarily needed those resources from Cease. That just looked like a full-on key opportunity that PETERBOT and Pollo were after.
Yeah, after the damage here, this lobby looks like all morale out the window. Down to 77 players already. The desperation kicking in as everyone tries to attempt their last chances at climbing up here, making more money, fighting for the globals. Josh and Skittles, man, they're one of those few teams that can actually catch up to Kanata and Cooper. Like we talked about, they're in third, not too far off.
One thing, though, with the way that the lobby is so quickly getting chipped away at in terms of player count, that surge threshold might not actually be as big of an issue. So for some of our teams, it could be a point of relief, but really just all depends on how that player count holds up throughout the rest of these zones, and whether or not that storm surge damage is then going to become a topic of conversation here yet again. But as for Bryce and Bolts, they're preoccupied, just looking to defend from their forecast tower position. See whether or not they can scout out any teams they can look to try and pick off, try and apply a little bit of pressure towards. I think a lot of teams also kind of just searching out, playing a lot more aggressive because they know 6 points per elimination. There's still a good amount of prize pool money that could potentially be the gaps jumped up in terms of the leaderboard. Teams aren't careful.
That's exactly it. There is still a lot of prizing to be had here. Let's see what Booga and Agers. Man, you have to think like Booga and Agers are, you know, they were kind of fired up in the first several rounds, and then to be sitting out as early and for as long as they have been, I mean, if they weren't queuing into creative, I wonder if they've lost their steam. Well, time will tell when they fight this duel right in front of them here. This is a battle for, is that for the bunker down low? Does seem like it.
It is, but the problem still stands. Several other teams that Booga and Agers are going to have to deal with first. PETERBOT Pollo also caught in their own engagement, still hanging out by the likes of Restored Reels. Only this time it's Visuals and Braids that they've got in their sights. PETERBOT looking to take the sidewall. Continues trying to find some form of exposure. Nearly connects a good tag onto Visuals, but dashes away. Recognizes the fact these two playing a little bit too close for comfort. And PETERBOT just doesn't want to take any sort of chance in terms of just not wanting to get all of his resources depleted. He's just trying to build up his mat count. He'll leave Pollo to handle the business, if anything.
I wonder if he was just hunting for Jack. Like, is this Jack? You know, he's looking for the solo. This Jack was just there in the building, sitting super quietly. His ritual read. Nice little position up top.
And yeah, you already touched on the fact that in the last lobby, they didn't necessarily lose. They won that initial engagement up against the likes of Miro and Dukes, but realistically, it's just how much time they spent in that outside of zone position that ultimately resulted in them just not being able to set themselves up for success. When you rotate so late towards the zone, it just becomes all the easier for teams that are already based up, teams that are already in a safe position, to then just focus exclusively onto you. Ritual caught an inkling of idea, clicks an epic on the train.
I was just about to say, look who's jumping off the train. Clicks an epic way on the ride at the station. What's happening here? We got Paco mixing Trashy Skittles. Okay, so first of all, Trashy and Skittles gotta be super careful if they want top 3 right now, because they're caught in between Chance and Aaron right now, and Paco mixing on the outside. 6 chug splashes though. Skittles has to get this duo. There it is. One had to heal up for a second. Paco mixing starting to close the distance, close the gap. You want this fight. Paco Mixon has performed very well in these early game types of battles. I'm not sure we've seen the likes of Trashy and Skittles fight a team like them this early.
This is a crazy fight, though, to be taking place this far south at Seaside Villa. 3 teams just fighting over sticks and stones, essentially. Maybe Trashy and Skittles thought they'd be able to secure some elimination points. Can't really see any other reason for them to rotate to this part of the map, aside from the fact that maybe they got a knock at some point. But even then, with 0 eliminations, yeah, it just seems like they were trying to pick a fight just to eliminate a duo.
Another Rift Island push from PETERBOT and Pollo here. Secure the capture point. Not they need it, but it doesn't hurt for them to have this big opportunity to farm up all this material as well.
It's also they just take it away from any other team to potentially claim that would actually be in a much more spot of necessity for those kinds of resources that the capture point has to offer there on Rift Island. Kanata and Cooper just looking to play their own game. The start of today was definitely looking a lot more like a scramble, but Kanata and Cooper have definitely seemed like they have pieced something together here, because they have been holding strong to that 3rd place spot on the leaderboard ever since they stole it back from Bryce and Bolts. But they want to make sure that they conclude today inside of that top 3. They can't afford to let off the gas just yet. with another team, another Surge Tower directly next to them, Yumi Invert. But Kanata's got an angle where he's not exposing himself to Yumi Invert. He's just applying pressure onto teams that are approaching from that west side of Fencing Fields.
Yeah, personally, I don't see them giving up their position. I think Kanata and Cooper are going to remain consistent this game and walk away with third. And I do think Regan Ritual will do the same here for Cold and Acorn. Can't tell you how things are going to go for them just yet, as Cold gets just hugely punished there. And it's going to cost them. I mean, it's going to cost them all their chug splashes if they don't have a med kit or can find something. There it is. It's their jaw spot. They know where the stuff's at.
Seems like these are some goodies that they intentionally left behind. They planned on revisiting if necessary. You could see that old Surge Tower that Acorn has on top of some of the roofs here at Fencing Fields. Larson and Oliver OG, though, a little bit further out from the zone than they would like to be, and it's evident teams have already taken note of their current position. They might have to fight their way on this south pathing that they've opted to go for. But they might have just done enough. Still trying to work their way around the river, use some of the natural landscaping to keep themselves safe from teams that are already in more ideal positioning inside of the zone. Oh my.
Trashy and Skittles taking one out of literally Mixon's book. You can see him in the distance. This is all they've been doing all weekend long. Dead side rotates through and through. Trashy's stopping to heal here.
I was gonna say, I didn't see Paco, and Trashy has one elimination.
Yeah, could have been.
Still a crazy dead side rotate to be making here at this point, though.
Hey, look at, I didn't even realize Blake and Macwood are in 9th after how many times they've been eliminated off spawn. That's still impressive, like coming into game 12 and quite literally knowing that they've been dropped off spawn several times.
Yeah, top 10 in the first place when you're so directly contested and a pretty 50-50 off spawn. Oh, there's Paco. So it does appear that's just the earlier elimination that Skittles and Trashy had already been holding on to all game long. Not sure who they managed to find that on, but it's curious to see them just kind of chasing behind Paco and Mixon in this final lobby. But yeah, Blake and Macwood, solid performance. Contested in top 10 if they can hold on to it.
Already at zone 6, halfway through the last game. The grand finals now. Regan Ritual still one of the teams standing here, standing strong, holding their second place position on the leaderboards. Locked and loaded here. So long as Kanata and Cooper are in the game, though, their second place is threatened. They're right next to him. They're based up right here. The fact that they're going for walls, they might need some damage. This is going to be an all-out fight here shortly between Bryson Bolts, Cooper and Kanata. Bryson Bolts would love to take these teams down and actually take third place from Cooper and Kanata. Oh. No, it was the rift they were camping. Okay. I didn't see that one there.
Just look at every single one of these teams, though. That's our top 5 leaderboard, essentially. All right. Flying through the sky currently off that rift.
Just stay with them. Just keep the drone shot. Follow these guys. Look, they're all moving in a pack, too. If you just look at the map, they're all landing kind of near each other. This is going to be very interesting now. Ooh, PETERBOT hurt here.
Does have plenty of shields, though, to regenerate back to 100 shield. Could use a splash as well to fully regain his white HP, but Golden Acorn, look at this. Just completely captured. Seek and dash off guard. It's a slippery slope sometimes when you're making these rotates. It's easy to just stay fixated on what's in front of you, but you've also got to make sure that you keep your back well protected. Otherwise, it leaves that little bit of wiggle room for a team like Acorn and Cole to slide right in, get those 2 eliminations, and now just empowering themselves. Try and set up for a solid late game. Kanata and Cooper, same mentality as well. They don't have an elimination just yet. but they have an okay amount of builds. They definitely could be seeking out a refresh sometime soon, though. Still using the Wings of Icarus tech to make these short rotates a little bit more feasible, not necessarily having to expend all of their Flowberry Fizz, down to the final 15 even for Kanata.
Blake is still cooking too, even while all of this is going down. Top 25, placing points now being divvied out to the lobby here. Cool to see all of our top 5 teams still in the game right now, but this is where all the critical and crucial points are going to start being given out here. Important rotates happening right now for Kanata and Cooper here. Their Game 11 winners sized up right in front of them. Aviv and Chubbs there. And Kanata and Cooper below the surge. They will have to jump on a team. Options are Blake and Macwood to the right. Aviv and Chubbs and Rhea and Ritual coming in late from the storm right now, but I don't even think they're safe, actually. I think they will have to... Oh yeah, they have just enough space. It's going to be pretty close for Kanata and Cooper. I don't even think they saw the team in the bush there. It's Reitz. Oh, caught him when he tries to make a quick move. And now second place could be opening up here for Kanata and Cooper.
Look at that extra bit of Flowberry Fizz, though, that Kanata was just able to find, and a med kit. He's going to ditch the last of his Flowberry Fizz, but that is huge because we are looking at a south pulling zone here, MDF. Brawler's Battleground. This mountain face elevation that could potentially come into play this part of the map. That full 100 Flowberry Fizz could be a massive saving grace currently for Cooper and Kanata's final lobby.
You can see Bolt and Bryce struggling right now. The damage setting them back for a second, and meanwhile, your FNCS Grand Finals champions are here. PETERBOT, Pollo with a victory lap in motion right now. Take a look. Still lighting up the lobby. Still fighting and breaking those point records. They're trying to close this one out with a ribbon finish.
Do you see how gnarly that setup is, though, from all of these teams? Just varying levels of elevation. Multiple boxes built along the side of this mountain face. Aviv and Chubbs, they're trying to navigate their way through. The mid-ground layers are just so scuffy to work with right now, though. Kanata also trying to claim some space of his own, taking more towards the low ground as is. Running relatively low on builds. Might get an opportunity here. A couple of tags applied. Saucy getting lit up currently. Saucy not. That's a big shot. Kanata and Cooper might get the benefits. It's Yasir who actually got the credits, but no, Yasir and Krizik, they're able to close in first. Kanata, Cooper, left with nothing. They might be able to cut them off, though. Krizik still trying to work his way up. The zone pulls back. Kanata now with Cooper. A little bit stuck, but still managing to make it work.
Yeah, they've already set the trap. Dashes past, and a huge monster shot onto Breeze there. Just claiming more and more points here at the very, very end. As we already know, they have a chance to fight for more cash money. Cash prize is what's on the line here for everyone who is still looking to claw their way past their opponents. Meanwhile, PETERBOT actually finds Cooper, but Trashy getting Mixie here in this. This is just a face dive off the cliff right here. If you want to stay in the zone,
oh
right
my,
PETERBOT's
they
up
did
top.
it.
They're trying to win this game here, slowly working their way up. They have the material
We're
count
gonna
as
hit
well
1,000
here.
points.
There goes the coin swap. Here comes the Flowberry Fizz.
Even if they didn't have the material count, the fact that they have that aspect of agility alone, when you're dealing with a zone that is just pulling back and forth over these differing levels of elevation, so much easier for PETERBOT and Pollo to just hyperfixate on how they want to play this game. They have the luxury of not having to expend that many materials. Kanata, meanwhile, he just finds another small moment to breathe. Picks up a little bit of materials, trying to just keep it moving, jumping every which way doesn't want to get found out just yet. Every single point counts to maintain that third place spot.
PETERBOT and Boyo break the builds from underneath Rapid, and they have the high
Look at
ground.
that.
They were
Holy.
just waiting to seize the moment, and once again, they do it perfectly executed here in zone number 10. They have just been the best team, not only on the day, today, yesterday, but this entire season. It has really been the PETERBOT and Boyo show, and you got to give respects to both of these players. They've just kept up such a ridiculous pace over the lobby. Meanwhile, Golden Acorn, okay. Seeing them in the 619 point area now. 8 eliminations here. Makes you wonder if they just had an even slightly better day one. Golden Acorn could be contesting for that first place finish right now, but that's going to happen a different day.
Look, we could talk about Acorn and Cold and how they pick things up here in game 2, but PETERBOT and Poyo, they've got over 1,000 points, MDF. Forget about records. This is FNCS history that we are witnessing with these two titans in NA currently, and they are just keeping the ball rolling. Rise next on the charts. PETERBOT trying to just attach even more eliminations for the individual record he's already set here today in NA, along with the points title. Poyo still hanging out way up above the clouds, top of the mountain, letting PETERBOT do whatever he wants to in these layers underneath. Dropping to the low ground. Rapid Batman Booga next in his sights.
That's what's impressive about this. PETERBOT is down here literally 2v1ing, fighting everyone, while Boyo's like, hey man, I'll make sure I lock in the win. You go do your thing and hurt the lobby, make it impossible for them to stay alive at this point. And Boyo's got his win conditions. He's got the heals to work with. PETERBOT slowly, surely, methodically working his way down. Every time he finds 2 players, though, he does start to ease up on the gas pedal and play a little bit more passively. It's not just reckless keying at this point. It's all smart play. The reads are so good right there. And we talked about what he was capable of.
Oh, wow.
And he does it again.
The moment that we saw PETERBOT and Poyo claiming the high ground here in Game 12, that was all the foreshadowing that we needed, MDF, to know exactly what would happen next. One more victory royale to attach to their grand finals run here in Major 2. What a way to conclude match number 12.
A fitting finish here for PETERBOT and Boyo to take a victory royale in the final game to undisputably solidify their grand finals win here today. Let's just take a look at the highlight. It truly has been all them here today, putting up the performance that we all expected, leading in with the momentum and never looking back. You see the wide shot there. Look at that shot from PETERBOT, and then the assistance from up top. It was just effortlessly and perfectly played for PETERBOT and Boyo. Congratulations on the Game 12 win, and congratulations on another Grand Finals championship under your belt. They just locked this season all up.
Yeah, definitely going to be some big celebration taking place at the Agent House, I would imagine, for PETERBOT on this one. But yeah, big congrats, PETERBOT and Poyo. But that's going to do it for us, MDF. The final match of the day. It's all down to the analysts now to break down everything we just witnessed.
Think we celebrate the only way we know how. Records being set here, NNA, from PETERBOT and Poyo, baby. Over 1,000 points. Guys, this is, as Taco said, this is going down in history as one of the most dominant performances we've ever seen in Fortnite. Over 1,000. Did you guys see at one point, if you were watching their gameplay, you saw a little icon on the bottom left. It broke for a second. It just said 1K. It's like, dog, I don't know if I can count this high. 1.01 sounds good, man. We'll figure it out. They just pulled off one of the craziest wins we have ever seen in Fortnite in such a dominant fashion with such an unprecedented amount of points. These guys are the real deal, Vivid.
Yeah, I mean, second place in Major number 1. First place in absolute dominant fashion in major number 2. Doesn't matter necessarily the meta or what they have. When they do get things like the aspect of agility, of course, it's just going to amplify their playstyle a little bit. But Kelly, we might be in the PETERBOT and Pollo era, of course, qualifying the global championships. It'll be interesting to see this duo on an international stage.
I am ready for this era, and I'm ready to see what they do on the global stage. But once again, big shout outs to PETERBOT and Pollo. It's not just with even the story of Major 2, but all throughout the Cash Cups, winning every single one this season, absolutely utilizing their POI to the best of any region's ability. The amount of aggression, but also knowing when to back off as well. This duo went for hide every single time, and we're able to claim it like majority of the time as well. They did everything right, and you really just have to be proud of what we can see a Fortnite duo do in a region that is incredibly competitive against the best players that are in the region. I am so proud of this duo, and I can't wait to see what they do next.
I can't wait to see all of these other regions try and hold them off, right? When PETERBOT and Pollo are in the lobby and they're trying to just take it to you, jump in your box, fight for that height, or who will stop them? Well, globals, we will find out. Now, remember, it's not just about the win. There's 3 spots on the line here. The FNCS Global Championship later on this year. Let's find out together who made it in, because it's only the top 3 who have punched their ticket. Great and Ritual, and of course, Kanata and Cooper. They started the day strong, and they held on. They said, you know what? I'm just going to sit down in the seat temporarily. You know what? I'm just going to make sure it's my seat. I'm not getting off this bus, Zeke. And at the end of the day, they have secured themselves spots going to the Global Championships on top of prize money. These 3 duos have got to just feel on top of the world right now.
I'll be honest, shout out to Kanata and Cooper, right? I was a little bit worried after the first 2 games on day number 2, but they switched it up. They learned, they adapted, and they secured that top 3 spot. And Kelly, I know you're going to be happy about the duo on screen right now.
I love it when you said the shout out. I was like, oh, he's going to take Ritual and Reet. But you said Kanata and Cooper. So I get to give the shout out to Ritual and Reet, the boys from NA West. We all expected this from them in Major 1, but they make a big comeback in Major 2, proving to everyone just how good of a duo they are. Just how absolutely meticulously downloaded they have Reckless Railways, how they always go for the tower to get that forecast, how they're able to go for the aggression, and Ritual really coming up strong this major, proving that he is just as a phenomenal fragger as Reet is. I love it. I'm so proud of them, and I can't wait to see what they do on the global stage.
Such an amazing weekend here of Fortnite. Let's take a look at the standings together and see where all of these duos ended up. Remember, many of them were fighting for placement, fighting for more spots on that leaderboard. Skittles and Trashy ended the day in that 4th place. Look at that, $60,000 going on to the duo. Even looking 5th place, Acorn and Cold, right? They already have their spot. They won last major, and they still ended in top 5.
Awesome to see them kind of swing all the way up the leaderboard. Started the day in 31st place. Acorn and Cold, what a performance on day number 2 there. Bryce and Bolts, they were fighting for so long for that top 3 spot.
This is the first time
hold
Blue is not on this.
long enough. 619.6 place, $36,000 for the duo.
Honestly, every single duo here and all the duos that have competed today should be so proud of themselves. To go from tens of thousands of duos to making it through the qualifiers to going through the gauntlet of the semifinals and to find themselves here to prove themselves the best of the region, they deserve all the praise. And oh man, what a bittersweet moment. This was such an exciting, I know that it was obvious who was 1st place, but I just enjoyed this major so much, and I'm so proud of everyone, and I can't wait for Major 3.
Yeah, I'm sure for PETERBOT and Pollo, they're just thinking like, hey, they've been saying it all season long, right? We want to break records. It wasn't even about winning for them. They just wanted to push Fortnite to its very limits, right? The competitive scene, they wanted to break barriers, and they did. 1,092 points. Like 1,092 points. The last record was what, 812? Is that what I said? I can't even think right now.
900, yeah.
900? Okay, so to break that by another 100 points, like, this just hats off to the duo. They really showed up this season. And again, you know, we saw other regions, Vivid. They also had access to the aspect of agility.
True.
But no one was doing what they did this season.
Yeah, I mean, the respect all season, the grind through the scrims, right? Demanding that teams do not contest them, not only off spawn, but also on the high ground. It all led up to this very moment and all that hard work coming through. And yeah, just being showed without a doubt on the leaderboard. I'll be excited to see if major number 3, they can kind of follow up this performance and have that back-to-back. I know we're already setting high expectations for the duo, but new meta, new season, we got to see what it's all about.
I mean, they got second place in Major 1, so it's definitely a possibility. I also do want to give a shout out to their coach, Raz. I'm sure out of everyone watching the show right now, he is probably the most excited and proud. So it's... I'm sad that it's over, but I'm excited I got to be here.
Well, thank you guys so much to Kelly.
Yo, Matt cooks his shit. Oh, his fucking Quisha's thing has been crashing. Oh, shit. Come on, let me drink. Good night, everyone. Fuck you, I did.